Hey guys, welcome to the channel. As you see in the thumbnail, what if Naruto got massive harem with seductive jutsu? Before I start, please do support for more awesome content and subscribe my channel and like this video. Go support and follow the Archangel and Bloodraven for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story, link in the description. Let's start this video. Thought has been a thoroughly exhausting day. Indeed, how often does someone fail their academy exam, learn an amazing new thing, find out that a blood fox demon is currently living in his belly, and defeat a traitor to become a full-fledged ninja? Oh well, the fox-faced blonde murmured, yawning widely. The only easy day was yesterday. He ran lightly over the leaf symbol etched into his headband before letting sleep wash over him. So naturally he was surprised to awaken in a dungeon like a sower. What is this place? This is your mind, Kit. A deep booming voice echoed through the halls. Who are you? Come to me if you want to find out. The voice boomed through the darkness. Naruto got to his feet hastily and stalked through several corridors, mumbling about freeloading voices and finally going insane, before coming to a stop before a massive gate with a paper seal. I'm here, so where are you? Right here, Kit. A booming voice chuckled as a figure stalked out of the darkness to glare at him from the other side of the bars. Red eyes, pointy ears, and 9 tails. What have I done to deserve an audience with the oh-so-great Kyuubi? The blonde snarled sarcastically. You've got balls, Kit. Kyuubi roared with laughter. I figured since you know I'm here now, I should set you straight on a few things, and just maybe, we'll be able to come to a business arrangement. An arrangement that frees you to burn Konoha into the ground. Naruto snorted. Not gonna happen. Oh, don't be like that, Kit. Konoha wasn't even supposed to happen 12 years ago. The fox shot back. You mean to tell me that trampling and killing several thousand shinobi was an accident? Naruto deadpanned. I can't wait to hear this explained. Kyuubi glowered at the youth. Ugh, such a brat. Here's the deal. I happen to be a seal expert by nature, so when some other demons started dropping off the radar, the most likely thought was that they were being sealed. I was sent to investigate, but when I got here, I sensed another tailed beast like myself appear briefly, then vanish again, in what you call wind country. So I started hauling ass in that general direction. The fox dipped its head and mumbled something. What? Naruto shouted back, stepping closer to the cage. I got careless and sloppy and attacked Konoha because it was in the way. Alright. The force of the bellow bowled the blonde shinobi back onto his rear. GRR. This isn't going to work if we keep antagonizing each other. Hey, I'm not an ant, whatever you said. Antagonizing? Kyuubi repeated softly. It means to deliberately piss someone off. And we've both been doing it. I'm big enough to say I'm sorry. You're big. Naruto cut himself off with a self-reproving grimace. Sorry. Never gonna get anywhere at this rate. Kyuubi thought for a moment. Perhaps if we could see eye to eye. Before Naruto could ask, the giant fox began to shrink and shift into a petite retard girl with green eyes and 9 bushy tails waving behind her. Naruto began to stammer in shock. You kawaii dream pervert girl. Kyuubi stretched as she looked at Naruto. The girl part usually throws people the most. Come on in, and we'll talk. She smiled sunnily and extended her hand through the bars. See, can I do that? The retard nodded. Your father was a genius, but when it came to this seal, he put all his eggs in one basket. Like I said, I'm a seal mistress, and I live in a seal, kinda. So basically the modifications I make in here alter the seal and the way it works. And you won't do anything to me, once I'm in there. I give you my word as a Kitsune and as a demon lord, so long as we're together, I won't let anything hurt you if I can help it. Alright. How do I get in? Kyuubi reached into her kimono and pulled out a gold key. This is a key seal. It's also part of why I need you. You've got a whole body and mind to explore, but I'm stuck here. The seal won't let me use the key, but you can. How do I know you won't run straight to my brain and take over or break the seal to escape? The blonde asked warily. Well, you see, me trying to get out wouldn't accomplish anything but pissing off Shinigami-sama. You know, big guy, specializes in life and death. Kyuubi said. It's his power that actually keeps me here. If I was insane enough to try to get out, we'd die. For good. No reincarnation for you, no crawling back out of hell for me. And I do want to keep breathing fresh air such as it is, so I think I'll just enjoy my unscheduled vacation. Naruto nodded and took the key from Kyuubi, who obligingly pointed him to the lock located just below the paper seal. So, you said something about, Naruto paused as Kyuubi folded her arms around him. Business arrangements. TSK, Naruto-kun. It's been so long since I've held a man in my arms. Kyuubi nuzzled against his cheek, and Naruto had to admit, her hold was not unpleasant. A moment before we get to business, The blushing Naruto stammered, unconsciously imitating a certain pale-eyed kunoichi. Surely the master of the wine knows of the S of man and woman. The fox girl noticed the blonde's blush deepen and the frenzied shaking of his head. "Oh god, you really don't, do you?" she said with a truly bewildered expression adorning her features. Naruto's shaking became, if possible, even more frantic. "Not a pervert," he mumbled into Kyuubi's dot. Kyuubi laughed heartily. "Everyone's a pervert, Naru-kun." She stroked his hair and kissed his forehead. "Even me and you. That's where little Kitsune and shinobi come from. I mean, it's clear you remember this body of mine. I've seen you in my dreams." Naruto agreed. "You were different ages each time, but you always had red hair and green eyes. You did such interesting things in those dreams. With your clothes on, to boot. And I suppose I'm partly to blame for your pursuit of the pink-haired fangirl." Kyuubi mused as she smiled knowingly. "My preteen form does look quite a bit like her. Shame though, you've missed your own fangirl." "Why what?" Naruto perked up, twisting about to look into ancient green eyes. "All the pieces have always been in front of you, but you've always lacked one critical element to bring them all together." Kyuubi smiled, holding up two slender s. "And before you ask, what you've been lacking is knowledge, something my great age has given me in spades. Enjoy my gift to you." Before Naruto could react, Kyuubi touched two s to his forehead and his world went black. Our blonde hero blinked slowly as his vision swam fuzzily. "Kentucky Kyu-chan," he called weakly. "Oh good. You're awake." She knelt beside the young shinobi. "These cage buncheons of yours are great. Did you know that you get their knowledge when they go poof?" Naruto grimaced and tried to get up, succeeding only with Kyuubi's assistance. "No, I did not know that, and what the hell did you do to me?" "I'll answer that question with one of my own. If you have a girl and tied an eagle to your bedposts with silk scarves, what is the first thing you do when you start to ravage her?" The girl's green eyes twinkled at her perverted pop quiz. "Depends," Naruto said. "If she's face down then I start by nibbling her ears and then progress down her spine. If she's on her back then I start teasing her feet, then I move up her thighs finishing with a long teasing tongue lashing, and how did I know that?" "My gift to you," Kyuubi said brightly. "I gave you all the knowledge I have of and relationships. Shouldn't having several thousand years of furry porn stuffed into my skull done massive brain damage?" Naruto deadpanned with a flat stare. "Ah, there's my insubordinate kid." Kyuubi grinned. "To answer your question, this is why I mentioned shadow clones. I sent a few dozen to get the lay of the land and nearly half of that to the file room." "What is the file room?" Naruto asked, finally managing to get to his feet under his own power. "Simply put, a mess." The redeed grimaced. "The file room is the repository of all your conscious knowledge, and even before I dumped all those new files and it was wrecked. I have my clones in there, filing things properly, essentially reorganizing your brain, but it will take some time, maybe a day or two, so don't be surprised if you're forgetful or spacey for a short while. Nobody will ever know the difference." Naruto giggled before growing serious. "Kyu-chan, they're never gonna let me become Hokage, are they?" The fox's formerly jubilant manner deflated in seconds. "It's possible given who your father was, but honestly not very likely." "That's the second time you mentioned my father. I know I didn't just appear here, so tell me just who is my father?" "The only shinobi to hold his own against me in combat," Kyuubi smiled a wistful grin. "Naruto, your father was Namikaze Minato, aka Konoha's Yellow Flash, aka." The fourth Hokage. Naruto stared dumbfounded. "Are you sure? Your two chakras are like mirror images of each other." Kyuubi confirmed. "Besides, the look in his eyes. He was willing to sacrifice a few, namely you and himself, to stop me from hurting a lot more, but he couldn't very well ask someone to give their child if he wasn't willing to give up his own." "Yeah, I kinda thought that, what with you being inside of me. I still wanna grow strong." Kyuubi was shocked. "To what end, Naruto?" "I still want people to see me as more than just you," he said in a voice that made Kyuubi's heart break. "Does that make sense?" "You're tired of being just the demon brat, is that it?" the fox asked as Naruto nodded. "Of course you are. Who wouldn't be? You know Naruto, I bet if you could confirm who your father was." "No," Naruto said firmly. "I will make my own way through my own strength and hard work, not my father's." "Fair enough," the redeed replied. "Although, what would you do with that power?" "Well, it seems to me I have three choices. I can protect the things I care about." "You're off to a good start that way, after what you said to Mizuki tonight." Kyuubi mused. Naruto nodded. "My second choice is to make people fear me." "Possible," the fox said cautiously. "But not really your style. Your general temperament does not lean towards fear." "Then that leaves me with the choice of making people respect me for my power." The blonde mused. "Ah, so if you can't gain respect for yourself, then you want to be respected for what you can do." Kyuubi tapped her chin sagely. "So what would you do if your dream of Hokage is beyond your grasp?" "I want to become the strongest shinobi in the elemental countries." The young shinobi mused. But all that power means nothing if I have no one to share it with. I think all that furry porn is affecting your brain. Kyuubi teased. Naruto looked up with no trace of humor in his sparkling blue eyes. I want to become the greatest lover the world has ever known. The preteen fox girl broke out in laughter, but it died away the moment she set her eyes on Naruto's face. You're really serious? Nothing serious. Kyuubi stared at the blonde intently. So who's the lucky lady gonna be? I dunno. But realizing now that I have little to no chance of prying Sakura and Sasuke's ass. It's best I took my romantic attention elsewhere other than abusive pink-haired tart. He said with venom. Kyuubi smiled as her kid realized half of the wisdom her imparted knowledge brought him. Why don't you get some rest, Naruto? I realize we didn't get to talk about business tonight, but we'll have time another night. I guess I have been here a while. Naruto mused. What will you be doing while I'm gone? Well, you haven't been here that long, since time moves considerably slower here than it does outside. Kyuubi smiled. As for me, I have a whole body to explore. We'll see if I can't make you tick a little better. Now go on, get out of here. We'll talk tomorrow night. Naruto was about to protest when sleep claimed him. Suiru's wizened old man observed the scene with curious amusement. Not very professional, Nico. The third Hokage murmured as he peered into his scrying crystal. What could have possessed you two unless he got those traits from his mother? Sarutobi watched the cuddling couple a moment longer. If Naruto notices anything else off, perhaps it might be wise to arrange a visit to the Uzumaki estates. But those thoughts he called for Nico's relief to send her directly to him for debriefing. 2 hours, a ramen-free breakfast, and a pleasantly crowded shower later, the last caused by Yugao's insistence of watching over Naruto and her need to clean up before donning her Anbu attire once more, the pair stood in Naruto's shadowed hallway away from prying eyes. You will be a great man, Uzumaki Naruto, the dark-haired kunoichi murmured, tying the blondes firmly about his forehead. And I hope to be there to see that greatness. With that she tipped his head back and pressed her firmly to his own. For luck, she ran her hand across his whisker-marked cheeks before fixing her mask upon her face. For both of us. Naruto stammered. And Nico-chan. Nico lightly pressed a slim to his, silencing him. If you wait much longer, you'll be late, Uzumaki-san. Nico chuckled mirthfully as Naruto shook himself from his stupor and hopped nimbly out of his window, roof-topping to the academy as Nico ascended to the roof to meet her relief, an Anbu in a bear mask. Running late again. Bear chuckled. Anyway, Nico, Hokage-sama asked me to send you to him for debriefing. Nico nodded calmly as the pair went their separate ways, but couldn't help but feel some trepidation at this change in her routine. Naruto slid the classroom door open and slipped inside with a comfortable time margin, thanks to some careful shortcuts. It feels like my mind is clearer. Naruto thought, surveying his classmates. But Kaio-chan said that reorganizing my mind would take a couple of days. So either she got done sooner than we thought or she did something else. Naruto's thoughts were interrupted as his eyes fell on a pale-eyed kunoichi, Hyuga Hinata. The only girl in class who isn't crazy about Sasuke, damn it. How could I not have seen that? Naruto mentally slapped himself. All the pieces have always been in front of you, but you've always lacked one critical element to bring them all together. Isn't that what Kaio-chan said? Hey Naruto. Narashikamaru looked up from his desk. Heard you failed. Aced makeup. Naruto said, casually tapping his knuckle against his dot. Looks pretty beat up for a brand new genin. The lazy boy said with a grin. But I bet you'll do it justice. Naruto just grinned and headed up the aisles towards Hinata. Hinata-chan, this is really rude on my part, but you're sitting in my favorite chair. Naruto scratched the back of his head and blushed. Do you think I could sit there one last time, for old time's sake? Hinata, too surprised to question why her usual seat with its perfect view for Naruto-kun watching, had suddenly attracted the blonde's attention, gracefully stood and stepped aside, letting Naruto slide into the chair. Ah, almost perfect. He smiled before moving with lightning quickness to pull Hinata into his lap. Yup, now it's just right. He said it loud enough for their classmates to hear. And Naruto-kun. The quiet girl stammered. You know, I really do like this chair. Naruto dropped his voice to a seductive purr and whispered in the blushing girl's ear. But I like what's in it so much more. The dark-haired youth squirmed, feeling the blood rush to her head. Hina-chan, if you faint, I can't enjoy your company. The blonde whispered with a knowing look. Miraculously, Hinata did remain conscious, forcibly pushing the blood back where it belonged as Iruka entered the classroom. All right, settle down every Hinata, would you like to take a proper seat? Naruto sputtered as he was repeatedly smacked by her whipping tresses as she indicated a negative. I'll let her go when her sensei comes. Naruto promised. Iruka sighed and launched into a long speech about the responsibilities of genin ninjas, or something. Naruto didn't notice as he was happy holding Hinata, and she was likewise occupied snuggling into the blonde's embrace. Theme 7 is Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, and Inuzuka Kiba. Your sensei is Hada Kakashi. Hacha. True love conquers all. Sakura shrieked. Not sure who I pity more, the boys or Akamaru. Naruto murmured, teasing Hinata's neck with his nose. That shriek couldn't have been good for the ears. Theme 8 is Nara Shikamaru, Akamichi Choji, and Aburam Shino. Your sensei is Sarutobi Asuma. Nice and level-headed bunch. The blonde commented, nibbling on his companion's ear absently. Unnoticed, Hinata's eyes fluttered back in her head. Team 9 is still in circulation from last year. Team 10 is Yamanaka Ino, Hyuga Hinata, and Uzumaki Naruto. Your sensei is Yuhi Kurenai. I wish you all the best of luck in your ninja careers. What luck, Hinata? Naruto's chuckle sent chills down the kunoichi's spine. It seems I don't have to let you go just yet. Hinata's reply was anything but coherent. Naruto, however, did loosen his grasp as his stomach growled. Oh bother. Hey Hina, you wanna get some lunch? My treat. Hinata nodded, not trusting herself to produce anything more than a very contented purr. Ino, you wanna come with? It's bad enough that I'm stuck on a team with you. I don't have to socialize with you too. Ino sniffed. Besides, I don't like ramen. Who said ramen? I was gonna take suggestions. And Hinata is so all over you she'd agree to anything you want. Ino retorted. Then she gets the first suggestion. Naruto shrugged, gently setting the dazed indigo-haired kunoichi on her feet. I gotta run back to my apartment for my wallet. You idiot. How are we supposed to decide on lunch if you're not here? Ino yelled. And for that matter, what if our sensei comes while we're at lunch? Relax Ino. I got both covered. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. An instant later 4 Narutos stood in the classroom. There. No problems. And how are clones supposed to help? They aren't even real. Ino trailed off as 2 of the clones each caressed a cheek with a knuckle. Are you sure about that, Ino-chan? The clones said in unison with a sunny smile on their identical faces. What are they? Ino started. Kage Bunshins. I'll explain everything about them later, but the important part is, if you hit them hard enough to dispel them, their knowledge comes back to me. See where I'm going? So while you're getting your wallet, we can decide where to go, and then this guy can tell you. Ino said, nodding in understanding. But what about Kurenai-sensei? We're on that. One clone said. When Kurenai-sensei comes, if you're not back yet we can either get a meeting location or have her wait here. The other clone replied. But why too? Hinata asked, coming back to her senses. Because it's bad form to leave a lady unattended. The clone said, pushing Naruto out into the hall. Now get going, boss. The blonde staggered out the room only to come face to face with Shikamaru, looking as bored as ever. Naruto, got a second? The lanky teen queried, pushing off the wall. Sure, if you don't mind walking and talking. Naruto said, moving swiftly down the hall. It won't take long. Ino's a good friend of ours, and we honestly figured that we'd be there to watch her back, since our fathers had been on a team together, we had always assumed they'd do the same with us. Shikamaru ran his S through his hair. I guess what I'm asking is for you to watch over Ino for us. Not that she needs it, but her family's techniques leave her very vulnerable. I get what you're saying. Naruto said, grasping Shikamaru's shoulders firmly. And I promise, I'll do my very best to protect everyone. All I can ask of you, man. Good luck, though. He chuckled as he waved and walked away. You'll need it. Our favorite blonde shinobi found the third unexpected surprise of the day when he slipped back into his apartment window and found 4 ninjas moving about in his apartment. Who are you guys? Ninja movers, kid. A woman said brusquely, filling a bag with stacks of discarded ramen cups. Why am I being moved? Naruto asked, grabbing his froggy wallet, Gemma-chan, as a younger girl passed by, loading a box full of clothes from his bedroom. Did I get evicted? The leader pulled the boy out the way as another male passed with more of the youth's belongings. Nah, it's nothing like that. The Hokage is trying something new, see? He wants the new gen and teams to live together. The man said. Naruto reacted to this the only way he thought appropriate. Who boy? In a well-appointed office, the third Hokage sat behind his desk facing a dark-haired Anbu Kunoichi. Lord Hokage, there is no excuse for my behavior on duty. Nico said, hanging her head in shame. I lost my objectivity and allowed my transgression to spiral into a series of utterly inexcusable actions concerning my charge. I stand ready to face my punishment. The old man leaned back his chair, puffing casually on his pipe. Nico, do you remember Uzumaki Kushina? I do, sir, but aside from the obvious, I fail to see what bearing that has on my actions. Do you recall certain aspects of her personal life, specifically romantic aspects? Sarutobi asked with a twinkle in his eye. Nico's posture changed ever so slightly. Hokage-sama, I'm going to need to know exactly what you're trying to say here. Nico, I have a long-term assignment that I feel you would best be suited for. Given Naruto's parentage, burden, and the possibility that he may inherit a yet unknown bloodline from his mother's side, I would like to provide him with a singular operative dedicated to ensuring his safety within the village at all times, and I'm offering you the position first. Do you accept it? Nico grinned madly under her mask. I do, Hokage-sama. Very well. You have today off. After I deal with team placements, I'll have the details of your new placement written up and delivered to you home. Ah yes, before I forget, this is an ongoing S-rank mission, and you will be paid accordingly per month. Thank you, Hokage-sama. Nico's grin nearly split her mask. Permission to be dismissed. Permission granted. The Hokage smiled as Nico vanished in the swirl of leaves. Now then, let's where our little troublemaker is. The old man murmured, peering into his crystal globe. Naruto had helped the movers for as long as he could before sensing his bunch and dispersing. Leaving 3 more in his place with orders to disperse upon completion of packing and unloading of the boxes, Naruto hastily roof-hopped over to a moderate little eatery. Unfortunately, this eatery liked nothing more than to throw him out on his ears, preferably in the back garbage dumpster. Sucking it up, Naruto threw together a simple nondescript shinobi transformation and slipped inside to sit next to his teammates. I wish you two hadn't chosen this place, but it can't be helped. He grumbled. Naruto? Ino asked in amazement. Is that you? Yes, and keep your voice down. He hissed, darting his eyes around. I'm not exactly the most beloved citizen in Konoha. If Yu Hinata began only to be stopped by the disguised Naruto. Hina-chan, you may think this is mean, but I really think this is for your own good. He said sternly, looking the heiress in the eyes. I forbid you from speaking unless it is in a clear, confident voice. No more stuttered mumbles around us, okay? Hinata nodded. Good. Want to try again? If you knew you weren't accepted here, why didn't you tell us? Hinata said flawlessly. Because the list of businesses and stores that will accept Uzumaki Naruto is sickeningly short, the disguised youth said. The waitress took their order and Naruto frowned at Ino's small portion. What? Ino snapped. I'm on a diet. You're not going to be at your best on missions if you don't eat right. Naruto said, gazing out the shop's front window. Like you have room to talk, Mr. All I eat is ramen. Ino mumbled as the waitress brought their drinks. I know how to eat properly, Naruto hissed, narrowing his eyes at the blonde kunoichi. However, due to circumstances beyond my control, I don't always have that luxury. Stop it, you two. Hinata pleaded. This isn't the way teammates are supposed to act. I'm trying, Hina-chan. I'm reaching out, I'm trying to meet you guys halfway, but Ino won't even entertain the thought that I might be more than a dead last loser. Why should I, Naruto? Ino snapped back. You'll never be as good as Sasuke, right? Naruto returned fire without hesitation. Tell me something, Ino. Has Sasuke ever given a damn about anyone or anything but power? Has he ever spared the slightest bit of emotion to anyone? A smile, an nod, a good morning greeting, anything. Sasuke's different. Ino spat. His family. I know. Naruto cut her off. But at least he had a family. Hell, anybody in the village would have been willing to adopt him. I was born with nothing. I must have had parents, but they both long gone before I could talk. Hell, the orphanage threw me to the cold streets when I was 5. I guess they wanted me dead that badly, though it wasn't for the first time. I may seem to be happy all the time, but I'd trade a lifetime of happiness for 5 minutes of family memories. But Sasuke Ino was losing steam quickly. Tell me something, Ino. Naruto shifted in his seat, letting his gaze focus on nothing in particular. Now try to be honest, if not with me, then at least with yourself. Are you in love with Sasuke or the image of Sasuke? Ino sat speechless a long while before the disguised shinobi snapped back to attention. She's there. We'll have to get this to go. Team 10 hastily made their way back to the classroom, carrying takeout boxes. Sorry we're late. Ino said. Naruto-kun treated us to lunch and the service was very slow. Hinata added. I wanted to hop the counter and box it myself. Naruto said, dropping his disguise. Hey Ino, the clone reached into a bright orange jumper and pulled out a folded bit of paper. Lazy-san wanted me to give this to you since his team left before you got back. Ino took the paper as the clone poofed away. Lazy-san? The blonde girl questioned. Probably Shikamaru. Naruto said. He asked me to watch out for you since he can't be there himself. Like I can't take care of myself. Ino snapped, tucking the note away in her weapons pouch. Shikamaru believes you can. I believe you can do better, but neither of which changes the fact that your family techniques leave you physically vulnerable. Naruto shrugged. And speaking of techniques, please don't go into my head. There are some things best kept private. Before Ino could respond, the exotic red-eyed woman before them spoke up. Now that that's all covered, you are Team 10. The 3 genins nodded. I am your sensei Yuhi Kurenai. Please follow me to training ground 14. The three genins nodded, casting a brief glance back over his shoulder at Team 7, or more specifically his former crush Sakura. So over it. He mumbled, rolling his eyes at his stupidity and taking so much punishment, both physically and emotionally, from the pink-haired girl. Hina-chan is so much more emotionally attractive than that thing. Naruto thought, at a loss for a word that accurately described his ire for Sasuke's #1 fangirl. Swinging his head around to take stock of his teammates, the young blonde began examining them through the filter of thousands of years worth of UL experience. I wonder just what my dear Hina-chan is hiding under that bulky coat. I bet I gave her quite a bit of accidental UL frustration. Our hero grinned foxily. Maybe it's time I start to do it deliberately. What's so funny, Naruto? Ino asked. Just thinking of how to turn my prankster skills to effective ninja traps. Naruto lied, grinning so widely his eyes squinted shut. The blonde kunoichi blinked in surprise. That actually makes sense. I'm the same person who painted the Hokage faces in broad daylight and didn't get noticed until I was done. Then I outran and outwitted a mob of Anbu ninjas before Iruka-sensei caught me. Don't you think that means I might have some higher than average stealth skills at least? Ino fell silent as the three kunoichi pondered this point, and Naruto opened his eyes and gave into a subtle but appreciative once-over. One thing I gotta say about fangirls, they certainly do take care of themselves cosmetically. The demon container thought merrily. And those are long. I wonder how they'd feel wrapped around my head as I made her scream my name. Although I'm sure I could put those luscious to a much more practical use. Naruto-kun, your nose is bleeding. Hinata murmured discreetly. Arigato Hina-chan. Naruto replied discreetly, swiping away the trickle of evidence to his perverted thoughts as he turned his attention to his sensei. Love the wild hair. It looks like she just got up from a really good night in the sack. Have to see if I can make it wave any wilder some morning. Just have to remember not to shred her dress. Treat her like a Christmas present, that's it. Unwrap her nice and slow. Having stopped to get something to eat for their sensei, the quartet settled down under the trees of the 14th training ground and ate their various meals in silence, even as their sensei wove the genjutsu that would be their penultimate exam for entry into the ninja world. Naruto, wake up. The fox-faced shinobi mumbled as a gentle hand shook him awake. Kurenai-sensei. The teenager mumbled, rubbing his eyes as he sat up. Where are the girls? They had to head home, and it's time you did the same. Kurenai stood and extended a hand to pull the young shinobi to his feet. Come on, I'll walk you. My first team meeting and I slept through it. Naruto ed. Ino's gonna think I'm an idiot. All we did was some small talk, just getting to know each other. Kurenai assured him. I'm Yuhi Kurenai and I'm Jonin Kunoichi. Naruto smiled, understanding how this was supposed to play out. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, Genin Shinobi. My favorite food is ramen out of necessity, but I like to try new foods whenever I can. Kurenai smiled, pleased that her student had caught on to their round-robin style information exchange. My favorite food is dango and bean soup. My hobbies are painting and origami. Gardening, believe it or not. Making life grow is soothing to me. That and cooking. I just don't really have time to eat what I make, living literally on the run either from prank victims or fox haters. The blonde frowned darkly as he thought of another direction for the questioning. I like training, ramen, my friends, am Nichin down at the ramen stand, and I think I like Hina-chan. The Kyuubi container dropped his voice to a murmur, but Kurenai caught something that sounded suspiciously like pink-haired tart. I don't have any other interests I think would be appropriate to share with you at this time, but my dislikes are perverts and fools who think a woman is less capable of her duties because of her gender. Ah no, Kurenai-sensei, the lovable blonde shinobi scratched at the back of his head as he smiled broadly, squinting his eyes. What, exactly, makes a pervert a pervert? I mean, everyone is a pervert to some extent, or so a friend of mine said. Otherwise, where would little shinobi and kid Kunoichi come from? Naruto carefully covered his slip to the best of his ability. He wasn't sure of Kurenai's personal stance as far as his own demonic status, but he was fairly certain that taking dating tips from the entity that had caused so much destruction a decade prior wouldn't be taken well. You have a point, Naruto. Kurenai conceded, momentarily disarmed by the youth's infectious grin. I suppose that perverted thoughts, while generally frowned upon, are harmless. Perverted habits like reading adult novels, peeping on bathhouses, and leering at women are, the red-eyed paused, choosing her words carefully as she answered the impressionable shinobi's question. Undesirable. However, pervert actions, any illegal action taken against a person without their knowledge and consent, is utterly inexcusable. Do you understand? Naruto nodded sagely. While Kyuubi's illegal exploits were wide and varied, even she had made that final point abundantly clear in her own way, and that means it had transferred to her keeper as well. No worries there, Kurenai-sensei. I may look, touch, and tease, but if my partner becomes uncomfortable I stop. No questions asked. Kurenai smiled. It was odd having an inverse team of 2 kunoichi and 1 shinobi, but she was glad she had gotten this one. Out of all the males, he seems to harbor a good balance of energy, respect, intelligence and etiquette. Well, they are a little rough according to his files, but he's a real diamond in the rough. My dream is to make you 3 into the best ninja you can be. No fair, Kurenai-sensei. The orange-clad prankster gave another blinding smile. I never told you my dislikes. My dream is to become the strongest shinobi in the elemental countries, so I'll be respected for my power, and so I can protect those who are precious to me. My other dream. The blonde tipped his head back and looked up at a passing cloud. My other dream is to be surrounded by strong, beautiful women who love me. Isn't that every man's dream? Kurenai chuckled at her young student. Naruto thought back to some orgies a human form Kyuubi had participated in and quickly beat down a blush and a nosebleed. Yeah, I guess it is. As for my dislikes, I guess my greatest dislike is people who only see the surface and don't take the time to really get to know someone, the blonde ground out stupid Ino. So why do you care what Ino thinks? We got off to a rocky start because she's a Sasuke fangirl, and I'm well, not Sasuke. Naruto huffed. I don't get what girls see in that emo bastard. Sasuke's brother Itachi killed off the entire clan, sparing only Sasuke. He's had a hard life, growing up alone because of that, Kurenai said, or at least that's what they say. Kurenai-sensei, I've spent my whole life being ignored at best and assaulted at worst. I've had more attempts on my life than some Anbu agents, and I only just found out why when a traitorous bastard tried to end my ninja career and my life. Now Sasuke's headed bad, I cannot and will not deny that. But he's going about dealing with it in totally the wrong way. At least I think so. What makes you say that, Naruto-kun? Well, I'll admit that I don't know all the details of what happened, but if this guy wiped out a clan of several hundred at least, that means he's strong, smart, and skilled. And he's had years of further training dodging hunter nins, bounty hunters, and idiots trying to make a name for themselves. Add to that the fact that this guy cut Sasuke off from everyone that could teach him what it means to be an Uchiha. When he had already learned that himself, it also means that Sasuke is facing an opponent who knows him better than he knows himself with a badly skewed learning curve. Interesting, Kurenai commented, impressed by Naruto's analysis. Go on. Well, if this guy is that good, then there's no way Sasuke will ever be able to beat him, no matter how strong he gets or how many he learns. Naruto explained. So Sasuke needs to do what I do when confronted with a superior enemy. He's got to outwit him. He's got to think like a fox. The demon container grinned madly at this, then sobered. He also can't go it alone, but I don't think he'll ever understand teamwork. And speaking of teamwork, how long are we gonna keep doing laps in this of yours? Kurenai was clearly shocked. The girls didn't even realize it until I had escorted them home, so how did you know? I'm actually a little pissed I didn't see it sooner, but I figured it out about the time you were listing your favorite foods when we passed Old Man Kishimoto for the 3rd time. From what I can tell, this illusion takes a set amount of physical space, about 2 blocks of Central Street this time around, and loops it into a self-repeating cycle. Most people, shinobi or civilians, don't really pay attention to people in an urban setting. I, however, don't have the luxury of such blissful ignorance. Kurenai stood in shock. Naruto, the supposed dope of the academy, had unwittingly completed her test and he'd done so than his female teammates. Well, you are right, Naruto. This is both a test to see if you're ready to become a true genin. Naruto murmured, looking at his red-eyed sensei. And the academy test. That was a skill assessment. Kurenai explained as she flashed through hand seals and the illusion world wavered. Alright, you 3. As you know, Konoha's strength lies in our unity. To that end, you must use unity to escape this illusion. Your teammates are here, even if you can't see them or hear them. Rely on them as they rely on you and break my spell. Crap. Naruto thought darkly. Genjutsus are my absolute worst thing ever. Think, Naruto. In the academy you learned that an illusion can be dispelled by pain, but all those damn beatings have given me an abnormally high pain tolerance. Okay. I can't see or hear the girls. Tasting them really isn't practical, so that leaves me with smell. The blonde shinobi thought for a moment and channeled his chakra to his nose in an attempt to heighten his senses. A deep inhalation brought him Hinata's familiar scent, which he used as a beacon to search for the dark-haired girl. His efforts were rewarded a moment later as his olfactory search ended in a collision with his unseen teammate. Found one. He cried gleefully, moving his hands up to where he suspected Hinata's shoulders should be. Kurenai chuckled as her shinobi gently captured his dark-haired teammate's hands in his own before kissing the back of each unseen hand. Hinata, focus. Naruto plays later, okay. She admonished the pair as Hinata blushed furiously at the attention. Find Ino or you're all going to be spending the day running in circles. Naruto started stroking his chin thoughtfully. His nose was so full of Hinata's scent that finding the less familiar scent of Ino would be almost impossible for him. Good thing it's not just me in this test. He thought, hastily tracing an eye on the back of Hinata's hand. The young heiress quickly activated her Byakugan, much to Kurenai's amusement. What good is that going to do you, Hinata? The girl looked first at her free hand, then at the other hand held by her crush, and finally the blonde himself. Despite all the people in the illusion, there are still only 4 chakra signatures. Hinata grinned as she gently tugged Naruto towards their missing genin. Well played, but you must all release them at the same time, otherwise it'll just latch onto you again. Clever. Naruto murmured, taking Ino's hand as the 2 kunoichis completed the circle. Naruto gave each girl's hand 3 quick squeezes before opening his hand wide, meaning count to 3, then release. Hinata, however, got a second command in the form of an open hand and a downward pointing arrow traced against the back of her hand, delivered with a gentle tug on her arm. When we were released, pulling my arm down was the silent message. Game time then. Tense muscles contracted once, twice, and 3 times. The air was rent with twin feminine cries of Kai. And the sickening pop of forced skeletal alteration. As the illusion shattered revealing training ground 14, the 3 women stared in awe as Naruto stood there nursing his freshly dislocated shoulder. That hurt. He seemed surprised. Ino chose that moment to break out of her stupor. You just dislocated your shoulder and that's all you have to say. Why the hell didn't you just release it like any normal ninja? They taught that in the academy. Naruto nodded. You're right, they did. Now think back to that day if you can and remember what happened. Ino thought hard, casting her mind back to their academy days. XX, flashback XX. Alright, class. Today we'll be covering the ninja art of illusion. If you ever find yourself caught in an illusion, it can be broken in 3 ways. The first is by forcibly reintegrating yourself with reality. The easiest way to do this is with self-inflicted pain, but you must be careful not to incapacitate yourself. Escaping does you little good if you can't defend or escape from subsequent attacks. Any questions? Several hands raised, including a patiently silent blonde in the back rows. The instructor didn't see it that way. Uzumaki. Why are you constantly disrupting the class? But Sensei. I don't want to hear your excuses, Uzumaki. Get out. The red-faced senior nin pointed furiously to the door and Naruto trudged dejectedly from the lesson. XXN flashback XX. You don't know how, do you? Ino whispered in realization. You raised your hand to ask a question and they threw you out. Naruto grimaced and before using a nearby training post to force his shoulder back into its socket. It was so long ago, I don't even remember what I was gonna ask. I'll see if I can help you with that. Ino said quietly as the other blonde arched an eyebrow. Don't get any ideas. I just don't want you to die if I could have done something to save you. Kurenai decided now was the best time to drop the big bomb. Well, you'll have plenty of time to get to know each other. She jingled a small bundle of keys in her in your new apartment. Just think of Hinata. You get to see me every single day. Naruto barely managed to keep Hinata from hitting the floor. Kurenai sat with the other sensei gathered round the Hokage's desk. So what do you think of your teams? Kakashi, surprisingly, was the first to speak. Given the way Kiba kept leering at Sakura and Sakura was fawning over Sasuke during our introduction, putting those 3 in the same house is a nightmare waiting to happen. The cycloptic ninja gave a smile under his mask that caused his single visible eye to mimic his mouth's action. However, unless they can pass their survival test tomorrow, that won't matter. You sound almost as if you're planning to fail them. Kurenai said. I don't see much of a team dynamic between them, that's all. Kakashi said. The Soul Kunoichi snorted. You're just afraid you'll actually have to, oh I don't know, start teaching your students and maybe give up your reading during lessons. She's got you pegged there. Asuma laughed. Anyway, Shikamaru, Choji and Shino all seem fairly level-headed. It'll be interesting to see how their skills balance out. I'm surprised I wasn't given the Yamanaka girl as well, considering the success of their father's generation. I must confess my own curiosity as well. Kurenai said. The team seems somewhat haphazard, lacking purpose as it were. That is understandable, and I will gladly give you an explanation, but first Kurenai-san, your thoughts. My team is unique. While Hinata is an obvious scout and Ino can gather information straight from the enemy's minds, I believe that Naruto has the greatest potential of the 3. Kurenai said. Naruto? The academy dead last. Kakashi's lone eyebrow rose as Asuma snorted. You must be mistaken. Is she? The third asked with a mischievous glint in his eye. Perhaps our newest is better at looking under the surface than our famed copy nin. Alright, Kurenai. Why is a clanless orphan with no ninja experience better than the heiress of a major clan or a kunoichi backed with generations of experience? Kakashi asked. He isn't. Kurenai smiled. But you just said Asuma began. That he had the most potential. Kurenai grinned. Not that he was neither better nor worse than anyone else. Though he does need a lot of help when it comes to dot. You tested them already? The Hokage seemed pleased. How did they fare? They passed stunningly, both my test of detail and the test of unity. Kurenai beamed. Naruto actually realized he was trapped before the girls did. That still doesn't explain your reasoning. Kakashi murmured. Naruto has virtually no shinobi training. Which is exactly why I claim he has the most potential. Naruto's lack of training makes him a perfect blank slate. Kurenai explained. Hinata and Ino have both been born and trained into their roles, but I think I can help them expand that. Naruto meanwhile may be molded into anything from a ranged fighter to a scout too. I think you might be giving the boy too much credit, Asuma said. However, I must admit the logic behind it is infallible. And that, the Hokage grinned broadly as he leaned back in his chair, is exactly why I restructured the teams. While having a specialized team of trackers, for example, might be good for information gathering, scouts are not typically heavy fighters. As such, any information they may gather would be useless to us if it dies with them in the field. In short, you're worried that over-specialization will lead to their skills stagnating into predictable patterns. Kakashi nodded at the Hokage's wisdom. Kurenai took in this information. It also forces them to adapt their styles into something they may not be immediately familiar with. Ino is a prime example, as she likely trained most of her life to become the next generation of Ino Shikacho. Being forced to work with Hinata and Naruto will likely force her to think in a different way than she was trained. Asuma broke in at this point. There's still one thing I don't understand. Ah, yes. You want to understand the rooming arrangements, yes. The venerable old leader puffed on his pipe a moment. Kurenai, I believe your genin team had some concerns about this. Call them in please, so I may explain. The elder kunoichi nodded before moving to the door and beckoning her genin team in. The girls came first with Hinata supported unsteadily by Naruto, the former kept conscious by a nearly imperceptible motion by the latter. I'm gonna sit on the far side of Ino. Put Hina on your other side, and if she starts to faint, I've been pinching her side. Naruto spoke in a hurried whisper before slipping away from the kunoichi and taking his pre-planned seat. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, why are the teams living together? Ino asked respectfully. Yeah, old man, Naruto chipped in. We've never done that before. Naruto-kun. You should show the Hokage some respect. Hinata just barely managed to make herself heard. Louder next time, Hina-chan. He admonished the shy girl. But I'll let it pass as you didn't stutter. As for respecting the Hokage, he chuckled softly. He may be the most powerful ninja in the village, but he's still as human as we are. Besides, everyone calls him Hokage-sama. Naruto pulled a most grim and dour face with the use of the title, one that reminded Hinata far too much of her father Hiashi. All day long, the poor man is reduced to a title. And worse still, it's not even his own title. He's had to share it with a bunch of other Hokages. While my chosen name may not be the most conventionally respectful, it lets Sarutobi-sama know that I'm talking to him and not one of the faces on the mountain. Naruto finished his explanation with a slight respectful bow. The assembled ninja pondered this reasoning a long moment before the Hokage spoke. As you know, other ninja villages have different customs than our own, obviously. The wizened old man began. Some of these customs are theoretically sound ways to allow teammates to form closer personal bonds that will aid them on mission. Others take a far darker, twisted path. The Hokage trailed off, staring at nothing in particular. Naruto grimaced at the pregnant silence that permeated the room. So you want us to live together, so we'll be better teammates? In part. The old man lit his pipe. I won't sugarcoat things. As a ninja, you are being trained to ultimately take another human's life. The genin in front of him gasped. Well, we have trained you in the skills to kill, we didn't exactly teach you the skills to live. Hopefully, living in an apartment together will teach you more normal skills. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, I can't live with Naruto. He's clumsy, goofy, loud, he wears orange. Ino began ranting. 1 month. Naruto said quietly. The room came to a sudden halt. What do you mean, 1 month? The blonde kunoichi turned to her teammate in surprise. The deal. You live with me, the real me, for a month. If at the end of that month you still don't want me around, I'll see about getting my old apartment back and you only have to deal with me in a professional capacity. I dunno, the young mindwalker mused. I'll sweeten the deal. Naruto said. I need new clothes and you're the only kunoichi whose fashion sense I trust. What do you say, you and me, shopping tomorrow? Well, maybe. Ino said hesitantly. I don't really know how I feel about being alone with you. We can make it a team effort if that makes you more comfortable. Naruto shrugged. I want to be a serious shinobi and I want all of you to help me. Ino, you said in so many words that you didn't want my death in your hands. Well, I promise that I'd do the best I can to protect everyone, but I can't do that if I'm standing out like a target. If anything, I'd be putting you all in danger, and I don't want your deaths on my hands either. Ino mused on the other blonde's words for a long while. Kurenai-sensei, how long until we can go on missions? The elder kunoichi smiled. Well, since you three passed my test today, you are the first three-man squad in your class to become an active genin team. As such, you could start taking appropriate missions as soon as tomorrow. I think we may need to wait a day. Hinata and I have to help outfit our new teammate. Naruto's grin split his face. Thank you, Ino-san. Naruto said with a slight bow. Ino took this moment for a bit of payback. Naruto-kun, you may think this is mean, but I really think this is for your own good. She smiled cheekily. I forbid you from addressing me unless you call me Ino-chan. Naruto grinned as his own words were thrown back in his face. Why Ino-chan, if I didn't know better I'd think you were offering to be my friend. Well, we are going to be stuck together for at least a month. We might as well make the most of it. The slender blonde said. The elderly Hokage smiled mirthfully. Well then, if there is nothing else, you are all free to go. Kurenai rose gracefully and beckoned her team forward with a slender hand. Well, shall we meet the place that you will be calling home? Kurenai turned her key in the lock of apartment 310 and pushed the door open wide before reaching forward to flip the lights on. Welcome home, my students. She smiled warmly as she stepped aside. Naruto's jaw dropped at the simple elegance of Team 10's modest dwelling. Can we? Kurenai, having seen Naruto's old apartment, understood the boy's awe and gave him a slight nudge forward. Of course you can. Take a look around. The blonde boy did as she bade him, peering directly behind the open door to see an unmarried wall, but opposite the open front door was a small half-bathroom with toilet, sink and mirror. A short distance from the front was a recessed area for coats and shoes, which the three genin made swift use of. The entryway, while short, was still wide enough for two people to walk comfortably. This gave access to a massive living room furnished with a tasteful cream-colored couch, flanked by lavesiets, recliners, and a variety of end tables. Naruto's attention was drawn to the 27 televisions nestled on a stand in front of the window. He'd never really spent a lot of time watching TV, but he supposed it might be a nice way to bond with the girls. Turning to his right, Naruto saw a large dry erase memo board with a series of markers mounted next to the phone, presumably to keep track of any obligations the three had outside of team training and missions. Naruto casually leaned over the foot-wide window to peer into the well-appointed kitchen before pushing through the double-hinged swinging door, followed by the girls. Naruto peered here and there, opening cabinets and rotating a perfectly stocked spice rack, nodding to himself in satisfaction. You actually know your way around here? Ino asked, observing Naruto's professional inventory as she orbited the large marble island in the middle of the room. The blonde nodded. I don't know if you heard when I told Kurenai-sensei, but cooking is one of my hobbies. If you'd like lessons I'll be happy to teach both of you. Are you saying I can't cook? The outspoken kunoichi growled. Nope. Naruto crouched down to examine a variety of pots and pans. See, I've never had anything you've cooked, so I don't know what to make of your skills. If anything, I'd accuse you of not knowing how to eat. How to eat? The taller blonde repeated curiously. When we ordered lunch, you ordered a very small portion and said you were on a diet. That is your decision, but I have to remind you that all of our decisions impact each other now. If you fail to eat properly you won't have enough energy to complete missions, and Hinata-chan and I will have to make up the difference, meaning we'll all be too tired to complete missions, which will reduce our income. Now, I'm assuming you diet to maintain your figure. As a kunoichi, while your personal appearance should not be your main concern, it is still an undeniable asset and should be maintained like all your other shinobi tools. Naruto paused and held up a hand that forestalled his teammate's heated outburst. And before you say anything, I'm not comparing you to a kunai. I'm simply concerned you may be focusing on your body for the wrong reasons. Naruto makes a good point, Ino. Kurenai chimed in. The best way to maintain your figure is through a combination of diet and exercise. Now of course, you can still keep your shape through exercise or watching what you eat, as you've seen firsthand with your dieting, but they're not without drawbacks. I don't know. Ino mumbled thoughtfully. I'll have to think about it. Hinata squealed happily as everyone's attention focused on her. Sorry. I found the tea cupboard. She murmured, pushing her indexes together at the tips as she gestured into a comfortably cramped dining area previously hidden behind a pair of sliding doors, opposite of which extended an enclosed balcony. Naruto continued his inspection as the dining room held a variety of teas and a smaller refrigerator filled with chilled sake. Naruto glanced over his shoulder at his teacher. Sake. Kurenai just smiled thinly. Those headbands you wear mark you as adults of Konoha, and as adults it falls to you to take responsibility for your actions. If you want to drink sake, that is your choice, but you must deal with the repercussions of that choice. But the tea. Hinata squealed giddily as one of her blonde teammates swooped down on her. You squealed. Naruto jokes, wrapping his arms around the dark-haired girl's midsection. Are you a tea fangirl? Hinata pouted cutely. I like my tea. She mumbled. Happiness is a good cup of tea that when you drink it, all your troubles just fade away for a little while and it leaves you with a warm feeling right here. She explained, pulling the lone shinobi's hands up from her waist to rest over her heart. And you should never be ashamed of something that makes you truly happy. Naruto said, casually rocking from side to side with the young heiress in his arms. But we still have more of the apartment to explore. The two kunoichi smiled at their teammates' exuberance as they headed back into the apartment proper. Ino led the way into the darkened hallway, flipping a switch to dispel the shadows as Kurenai began to speak. As you know, our team has an inverse dynamic, with one shinobi and two kunoichi. Typically the two shinobi would have the two slightly smaller rooms on the east side of the hall, and the kunoichi would have the larger room on the west side of the hall, and of course the full bathroom is at the hall. So Naruto gets the larger room? Ino said, with a grin. Lucky dog. Let's take a look. Naruto cleared him and raised his eyebrow. Excuse me? Naruto-kun, may we please see your room? Hinata asked respectfully. Yes, you may. He gave his radiant eye-squinting smile. I just wanted you to ask and respect my privacy, and in doing so I will give you. Ino ducked her head in shame. I'm sorry, Naruto. I'm so used to taking charge with Choji and Shikamaru that it just came out like an order. I'm sorry. Are we cool? Naruto never lost his smile. It's alright, Ino-chan. He said pleasantly. Just knock before you enter at night, okay? Why is that, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked curiously. Well, I don't think. Naruto blushed furiously. I don't wear anything to bed. He whispered, ducking his head. Ino and Hina blinked in surprise. You either? They said in unison, pausing a moment as the implications of that little admission. Kurenai blinked for a moment. A house full of nocturnal nudists? What are the odds? Kurenai said, smiling. Okay, so it's agreed. We knock before entering and we forgive any unintentional eyefulls. Naruto asked. Within reason, of course. Of course. Hinata agreed hastily. Within reason. Ino replied cautiously. Well then, if all of our surprises are out in the open for today, let's see our new rooms. Naruto grinned again as he opened the door to a bedroom that put him in mind of a typical teenage girl. Like the rest of the house, it was painted in a gender-neutral ecru, with the predominant feature being a Western-style twin-size bed. Despite the fact that one wall was cluttered with his boxed belongings, the room was still easily navigable, with a sizable closet concealed by half a dozen louvered sliding doors. Wow, Ino-chan, I don't think I have enough money to fill this closet. Naruto, the first thing you must realize is that clothes shopping is never truly done. You just find a stopping point. Ino stared longingly at the empty closet as Hinata ran a hand over the mattress a second before Naruto playfully tackled her down to its springy surface. My own bed and a cuddle to boot. Naruto grinned madly as Hinata invented 7 new shades of red. Naruto-kun. The young Hyuga whined, fighting the blush back down with limited success. I won't be manhandled like a ragdoll. You're too cute to be a ragdoll. The blonde shinobi grinned, trailing his nails along his teammate's neck. But in Kurenai-sensei, there are only 3 bedrooms. Aren't you staying with us? Kurenai smiled as she prepared to drop another bombshell. No, Naruto, this is your home, not mine. I do have a key if I need to enter in an emergency, but as I said, this is all about you taking responsibility for your actions. Now, this living arrangement is by no means a prison sentence. She clarified as she handed each of the teens a shiny silver key. You are all free to come and go as you please, so if you want you can go see your families and get any additional training in your family art and techniques. In that case, I should probably go. Hinata murmured, extricating herself from Naruto's grasp. My father will want to know the details of my testing and teammates. You know, I should probably go too. My dad will want to know about how things turned out, too. Ino said, attaching the key to her waist. I'll walk you both there. Naruto said, bouncing off the bed. You sure? Ino asked, tentatively. Naruto's face darkened. Not like I got any family to care about me, so the least I can do is get you to yours. Naruto-kun. Hinata looked down sadly, only to have her chin tipped up again by a strong calloused hand. Don't sweat it, Hinata-chan. I'm used to being alone. Let's go. He slid out the door and headed to grab his shoes and jacket. Naruto-kun. The young heiress looked sadly at her teammate. Wait, Naru-kun. The youth's cerulean eyes met his partner's violet ones as she nervously pressed her tips together as she gathered her courage. I've always admired you from a distance, but I was too afraid to say anything because steeling herself, she blurted out something incomprehensible before fainting dead away. Did anybody get any of that? Naruto asked, picking up the prone girl and stretching her out on his bed. Everyone has something that drives them, Naruto, and for Hinata, that's you. Kurenai explained to the clueless blonde. The Kyuubi container stared off into space for a long while as Ino roused the smaller girl. With some difficulty the pale-eyed kunoichi regained her feet and her wits, only to be confronted by the less than secret object of her affection. Listen, Hinata, I'm not really good at this sort of thing, so bear with me. You're a real classy girl and I'm obviously not. I'm rude, brash, uncultured and everything you're not. Yet you apparently saw something in me of value and worth, and I'm all too familiar with the feeling of being ignored, and I'm sorry that I did that to you. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Hyuga Hinata, would you like to be my girlfriend? I mean I may not be perfect, but I'll try my best. Hinata took a deep breath and steadied herself to answer the most important question of her young life. Hinata took a breath and stepped towards her blonde teammate, running her hand gently across his face. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry, but I can't give you an answer right now. I didn't expect one, Naruto said, much to everyone's surprise. Take your time. If you want me, you know where to find me. Right, Hinata Tenshi. Hi, Naruto-kun. The dark-haired kunoichi gave a shy smile at being called an angel by anyone, let alone by her now obvious crush. But right now, we should get going. Gurenai-sensei, will you be joining us for shopping tomorrow? Ino asked as the newly minted genin team exited their home. The older kunoichi just smiled. I leave that to the young. We'll convene at noon, training ground 10, okay? She called with a wave as she headed home, leaving her students to their own devices. Let's get you ladies to your clan homes, shall we? The orange-clad prankster offered an arm to each girl. You gonna be okay to make it back to the apartment? Cause if you want I can meet you here. I'll be fine. Hinata bowed to her teammates. I will see you later, Naruto-kun, Ino-chan. With a final wave and bow she hurried inside to meet her father. Hinata. The imposing figure of Hiashi Hyuga stood at the entrance to his private study. Greetings, father, Hinata said. I have had my genin field exam and successfully passed, becoming the first active genin team. Excellent. I expect nothing less from the heiress of the main house, he said with pride. Now, tell me about your team. My sensei is Yuhi Kurenai, and my teammates are Yamanaka Ino, and she looked away with some trepidation. Uzumaki Naruto. Uzumaki Hiashi murmured thoughtfully. I wonder. Do you know him? Hinata asked. Not personally, but I believe I knew his mother, Hiashi said. Really? The younger Hyuga exclaimed. What was she like? Uzumaki Kashina was a stunning woman of indescribable beauty, Hiashi sighed as he reminisced. We were together for a time, before I met your mother. The elder shinobi curled an eyebrow at his daughter's curiosity. You seem to have a special interest in the young Uzumaki. I am fond of him, she said timidly. I have watched him as he trained and fought with every fiber of his being. When no one thought he was worth anything, I saw value and strength. Today, he noticed me as well, much to my happiness. I will be living alone with my teammates, seeing each of them at our most candid and intimate, at our best and our worst. He asked me today if I would be his girlfriend and I couldn't give him an answer because I didn't think I was worthy. Father, what do I do? She sobbed, clutching at her father's robes as a single tear slid unbidden down her cheek. Hinata, calm yourself this instant, the Hyuga clan head said sternly. If you can't keep a level head, you will fail. Of course, father. Hinata bowed her head in dismay. My actions were not that of a Hyuga. Hinata, Hiashi's voice took on a softer tone as he drew his eldest daughter into an embrace. I know I am hard on you, but that is not because I do not love you, nor is it because I lack faith in your abilities. Your fate is to lead the next generation of the Hyuga clan, but your gentle nature is a liability. Furthermore, I must consider Hinabi as well. By birthright, one of you is destined to become a member of the branch house, but that is a fate to which I cannot condemn either of my precious gems. So what am I to do, father? The distraught girl wailed, burying her face in her father's robe. Why must I be the one to bear this burden, simply because I was born first? Grow strong, Hiashi murmured, soothingly rubbing her back, strong enough to change this world. Now, I would like you to do something for me. I would like to meet young Uzumaki for tea, before I give my consent to this courtship. I can do that, Hinata mulled over the idea, worrying about the scenario in her mind. But Father Naruto-kun is. She paused, endeavoring to find the words that best described the hyperactive blonde. He has been an orphan most of his life, yes. Hinata nodded mutely, not trusting her voice. I'll expect you to teach him proper decorum, then. Lead by example, but speak out if you must. Will a week be enough time? I fear a year would not be enough time to undo a lifetime of ingrained behavior, but I will have him respectable in a week. Very well, then. If that is all, dinner is waiting. Hiashi swept out as he fully embraced his role of clan head, with his eldest daughter following close behind. Are you sure you're gonna be okay by yourself? Ino asked as she and Naruto stood outside her home. Wait, she was wrong. Her home at least for the next month was with her teammates, she reminded herself. 7 years hasn't screwed me up that badly, so I must be doing something right, the blonde shinobi assured her. You want me to come back for you? It'd take a while, she replied, shaking her head. I'll just have daddy walk me home. Why don't you go get some dinner and maybe take a bath? Are you saying I stink, Ino-chan? Naruto arched an eyebrow. I'm saying you live with 2 young ladies, and this might be one of your only chances to get the tub to yourself, because honestly, the day I share a bath with you is the day I stop jazzing Sasuke-kun. Ino gave a flirty smile as she jogged up to the door. Besides, it's always better to go clothes shopping when you're clean. Now get. I'll see you later tonight if you're still up. Later, Ino-chan. Naruto exclaimed, bounding to the rooftops with a wave. As the blonde prankster alighted on the roof of the public library, a series of thoughts crossed his mind. He could make enough cage buncheons to turn a good-sized patch of forest orange without breaking a sweat. Those same cage buncheons brought their knowledge back to him when they dispelled. The library below him had lots of knowledge. Not enough to turn him into a genius overnight, but certainly enough to give him an idea of where to start patching the holes in his admittedly dubious intellectual portfolio. One decided course, a picked skylight lock later, and a river of fair-haired doppelgangers flooded the building. The primary Naruto rested his hands on his knees, feeling a momentary drop in his chakra before he straightened up with a grin and resumed his course for Ichiraku's. Hi papa. Ino called, giving her father a hug and a kiss. Hello, princess. Yamanaka Inoichi couldn't help but smile at his daughter's enthusiasm. One member of the family was less than impressed. Ino, Yamanaka Yoko glared out the window at the spot where Naruto had been standing earlier. Why did you bring that thing here? That thing is a person, Ino spat viciously, and that person is my teammate, Uzumaki Naruto. He saw me safely home tonight, unless you like the thought of your daughter bleeding and raped in an alley somewhere. You will stay away from that demon boy. Yoko snarled. Tomorrow we'll see the Hokage and get you placed on a team with Choji and that nice Nara kid. Not likely, Ino said. Naruto, me, and our third teammate, Hyuga Hinata, have already completed our Genin field exam. We are the first mission-ready Genin team this year. Choji and Shikamaru may not even make it through the exams, and even if they do, rearranging the teams will totally negate what Hokage-sama planned for us. You sure you want to go through with this, Ino? The elder Mindwalker asked. You already know how to work with Shikamaru and Choji. You know what to expect. True, but so does anyone who studied your old team, Daddy. Ino said, as the family moved into the dining room. According to our sensei, Yuhi Kurenai, the Hokage wants to avoid overspecialization. Besides, I'm looking forward to the challenge of adapting my clan techniques to fighting with the Hyuga's Byakugan and Naruto's unknown abilities. You don't know anything about the boy at all? Inoichi asked. Only that he likes to cook, Ino answered. And he knows the cage buncheon no dot. Inoichi arched an eyebrow. Pretty impressive, a genin knowing a level technique. Do you know how many he's capable of making? So far the most I've seen him make is 3 when we were waiting for our sensei. But I think he might have been able to do more because he didn't look tired or anything. The elder Yamanaka stroked his chin. One of the biggest dangers of the cage buncheon technique is that it splits the user's chakra evenly among themselves and the clones. If what Ino said is right, he split his chakra into quarters with no ill effect. I'll have to talk to Choza and Shikaku, but I think Ino may grow even greater with Naruto and Hinata than she could as part of Ino Shikacho. I bet that nice Uchiha boy could do better, Ino's mother growled spitefully. Rather than reply, the younger blonde kunoichi thought of the things Naruto had said to her throughout the day. Was Sasuke really all that she'd made him out to be? She found, with great trepidation, that it was getting harder and harder to say yes. After a tense meal in a hostile atmosphere, Ino was ready to bolt out the door. She gave her father a tight hug. Will you walk me home, Daddy? I thought you were home, pumpkin, he replied. The Hokage wants us to live together, and I promised Naruto that I'd try living with him for a month, Ino explained as her mother paled visibly. You're going to be sleeping under the same roof as that abomination. She whispered. The younger Mindwalker, having had enough of the abuse heaped upon her absent teammate, struck back in a manner that would make the fox-faced shinobi proud. That's right, mother. He actually sleeps across the hall from me. It would be a shame if I left my door unlocked and he ravaged me. Although, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. Maybe I'll just slip in one night and save him the trouble. There was an audible gasp and a thud as her mother pitched over in a dead faint and hit the floor. Serves you right, you bitter old thing. Let's go home, Daddy. Inoichi was hard-pressed to keep from grinning. Kurenai was awoken the next morning by a flurry of knocks on her apartment door. Rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she opened the door. Apologies, Kurenai-sama, but Hokage-sama asked me to fetch you right away. Kurenai grumbled silently, beckoning the messenger inside as she started to dress. It concerns your genin team. Kurenai dressed and set off for the Hokage's tower at a run. The black-haired woman burst hastily into the old leader's office. "Is something wrong with my team?" she panted. "I believe so," the Sandaime Hokage answered as he gestured to his omniscient scrying crystal. The scene the concerned duo observed was disconcerting, to say the least. Team 10 was seated around the table, a pot of steaming tea centered between them. The trio of confident teenagers of the day before was gone, and in its place were three youths, with totally different demeanors. Ino held her teacup in two badly shaking hands. Hinata's hands kept opening and closing spastically as her eyes darted everywhere, searching for threats, and Naruto glanced back and forth between his two agitated teammates, tea in one hand and a kunai in the other. Hinata straightened suddenly, causing the entire group to tense. "Oh no, I have to use the bathroom." Without words, the three rose as one and moved to the nearer half bathroom at the front of the apartment. Naruto stood tensely outside the door with the kunai clenched in his fist as the two kunoichi slipped silently inside. He jumped slightly as the toilet flushed and the faucet ran briefly. The trio regrouped in the narrow hallway as the fox-faced boy searched the girls' faces for some mysterious sign. The young woman nodded slightly and the boy relaxed his posture ever so slightly. "I think," Kurenai said softly, "that we need to be there rather than here." The old nodded and the pair vanished in a swirl of leaves only to reappear outside Team 10's apartment. "Who's there?" Naruto barked sharply as Kurenai raised her hand to knock. "It's Kurenai, Naruto," the scarlet-eyed calling back softly in an attempt to soothe our subordinate's ragged nerves. "Is it alright if Hokage-sama and I come in?" There was a long moment of silence before the lock was released and they cautiously swung the door open. "Come in." The senior nins walked inside, both noticing as the veins around Hinata's eyes faded away to normal. "They had Hinata use her before they let us in." Kurenai realized with a frown. "Would you like some tea?" Ino offered, her voice barely above a whisper. The new arrivals nodded and fresh tea was poured for all. The group drank in silence for several moments. Then Kurenai spoke softly. "So, are you guys all right? You seem kind of restless this morning." She rested a hand gently on Hinata's shoulder, only to have the pale-eyed girl flinch away. "Short night," Naruto mumbled into his cup, warily eyeing the exchange between sensei and student. "Bad dreams," Ino added, wrapping her hand smoothly around Hinata's hand to provide the distraught girl some measure of comfort. "I've found that night terrors often impart an urgent message," they murmured wisely. "Sometimes it is best if you share this darkness with others. After all, you've already begun to draw comfort and security from each other." The three genins looked shocked at the realization that none of them had yet reached. Then Ino licked her dry and began. "I trust everyone here knows a kunoichi's no, a woman's biggest fear." She began tentatively. Everyone nodded. "Well, for me that was just the beginning." Ino grimaced as the shadowy figure slammed her back into a lamppost, pinning her arms roughly above her head as an oblivious crowd passed by the scene. "I like sweet young things like you," the voice growled as she squirmed in his grasp. "Let me go, asshole." The teen snarled, thrashing against her captor's grip. "Are you going to make me?" he whispered, trailing his tongue down her neck and leaving a thick trail of saliva in its wake. "Sasu-kun will come rescue me, you pervert," the sapphire-eyed girl barked. "And then you'll be sorry." "Will I now?" The unseen speaker's voice dripped with mirth and menace as he began to fondle his helpless captive. Cold, uncaring hands began to violate her most sacred core and teeth bit into flesh that seemed to grow more sensitive with fear. The scream was begging to be released, but it would not come for fear that her revulsion at what was happening would be expressed in a different form. Her captor kissed that remained sealed under his. His expression turned to one of complete ecstasy when his prey tried to fight back by biting him so hard that she drew blood. "I love live prey," he whispered in her ear as he nipped the soft fragrant flesh right below her ear. "You said I'll be sorry, will I indeed or will you?" "Did he come?" Naruto asked softly. "Did anyone come?" "No," his teammate replied. "Many people passed us, but nobody raised a hand to help. The last thing my attacker said was, 'See what waiting to be rescued gets you.' As he slit my dot, the fear of being ignored and forgotten, that was the worst." "I know the feeling, but after last night I think some kinds of attention might just be worse," Naruto replied. The assembly looked at him oddly, so he explained, "When I was younger, the fourth Hokage was my idol. I wanted to be like him, to be able to put myself between a force of nature and those I care about with no thought except their safety. So it's quite odd to find your hero standing behind you as your home burns to ashes." The young man shivered as he told the story. Naruto choked as plumes of smoky ash billowed up from the once great ninja village, pouring past the Hokage monument. "I'm disappointed in you, Naruto," the stern voice of the Yondaime Hokage said from behind the young prankster's back. "This wasn't my fault." The container snapped, trying unsuccessfully to turn away from the scene of hellish destruction. "I couldn't stop this. I gave you an important task, and you failed. You asked too much. I gave all I could." I ask nothing more of you than I would expect from any other villager. The former leader's voice held a strong note of disappointment. Then what more can I do? The younger blonde screamed hoarsely. Why are you here, watching the village burn? It's already over. Naruto wailed. Leaf is dying and there's not a damn thing I can do. I thought the same thing when they attacked. I'm different. The boy snapped. I'm no hero. The only thing that separates a hero from a demon is a willingness to stand firm and never run away, no matter how strong your opponent. If that's what you felt facing, then that's bullshit. Naruto spat. That's not heroism. That's suicide. Is it? The former Hokage asked. And what about all the people I cared about who survived that day because of my sacrifice? No one in this kami-forsaken village cares about me. Nobody took the time to get to know me, the real me. Naruto exploded. Nobody cared about me, so why should I care about them? You don't care about anyone like magic, the voice's familiar lilt jolted out of his immobility. Spinning swiftly away from the terminal conflagration that was once his home, he confronted his accusers. Aino-chan. He stammered, gaping in unspeakable horror at the burned remains of his once beautiful teammate. And not even us, Naruto-kun. The soft stammered question fell from Hinata's flame-kissed, even as one of her beautiful pearl-like eyes dangled limply from its socket. What happened to you? The blonde shinobi stared in revulsion at the smoldering remains of his friends. You happened to us. Ino shouted, taking a menacing step forward. We were counting on you to watch our backs and you ran. Why you never face your problems, Naruto-kun? Hinata snapped as the youth hastily backpedaled to escape her wrath. All you do is run, and keep running, the fourth said, forcing the fox-faced youth closer to the precipice. But what happens when you've got nowhere left to run? Before the younger ninja could reply, he gave him a swift shove backwards. Would you? Hinata whispered. Run away from us, I mean. I don't know. On the one hand, I wanna say it's just a dream and it wouldn't really happen. But I don't know, Naruto answered, running his S through his spiky blonde hair. What do you think the fourth meant when he said he gave you an important task? Ino asked. It's always difficult to understand dream logic, the current leader said. But likely what he meant was that it is every citizen's duty to defend this village to the best of their ability, no matter the cost. Naruto will have to tell them of his true duty in the fullness of time, he thought. But that can wait a while. So, Hinata, what did you see? Naruto asked to place his kunai on the table before taking his teammate's hand. Hinata took a long swallow of her tea before she answered in a trembling whisper. I saw my family die. The night was filled with the screams of dying ninja. Hinata whipped her head from side to side as she dashed through the seemingly abandoned Hyuga compound. Father. Niji. She shouted desperately, trying to ignore the cold ball of distress growing in her stomach. Hanabi. Anyone? Hinata-sama, run arg. Hinata grimaced as Niji's voice was cut off, followed by a disquieting gurgling noise. Hinata swallowed as she charged grimly around the corner, only to see her cousin lying face down with his viciously ripped open. A hulking, shadowy form crouched over the body, crushing the branch member's spine in its monstrous grip. Spinning on her heel, she bolted from the side into an adjoining courtyard, only to find the scene repeated 100 times over, main and branch house members alike inhumanely dismembered. Ni-chan. The heiress's stomach dropped helplessly as she sprinted through a door, following the screams of her younger sister. Please let her be alright. Hinata prayed fervently as she dashed up a flight of stairs 2 at a time, barreling through the door into her little sister's bedroom. The indigo-haired girl skidded to stop, frozen in horror at the nightmarish scene before her. Hanabi hung limply as another shadowy behemoth gripped her easily by the Ni-chan, she wheezed, helplessly begging for her sister's aid. The creature let out a low chuckle as it casually grasped its captive's arm and ripped it off with casual ease. No. Hinata's anguished scream was easily drowned out by her sister's howl of agony. This is all your fault, you know, Hiashi's dispassionate voice droned from behind Hinata as his older daughter stood transfixed in horror. If you would have just taken a stand, Hanabi wouldn't have to suffer like this. I didn't do this. Hinata countered as the gothic creature slowly ripped its claws through her little sister's midsection. But you did, her father's voice insisted. Your unwillingness to meet the challenges in your life led the Hyuga to this dark day. Whenever you found yourself tested, you backed down. Hinata grimaced as her younger sibling's other arm was ripped off, more slowly than the first. And so here we stand, the last 2 of a mighty clan. One impotent in her youth, the other in her determination. The creature grew bored of its current victim and mercifully silenced the younger girl by snapping her neck. Hinata stared in shock as her sister's lifeless body fell to the floor. The hulking monstrosity moved with such speed that the last living Hyuga felt little more than a searing sensation in her before her field of vision was forcibly altered. Her last shocked sight was of her own decapitated head lying next to her father's. This really is entirely your fault. Hey. Naruto said sharply, slamming his hand into the table, causing both girls to jump. It wasn't your fault. It's just a creepy-ass nightmare. Even if you do run from your problems. Ino asked quietly. Or wait to be rescued. Hinata murmured. Or keep backing down, Kurenai said, carefully observing her unstable charges. No more. Hinata grabbed Naruto's forgotten kunai and plunged a blade through the back of her hand, embedding it in the dining room table with a brief misting spray of blood. No more backing down, she growled, wrenching the deadly implement from her hand and tossing it back on the table. Naruto picked up the bloody blade and stared off into the distance. No more running away, he murmured, mimicking his teammate. Naruto tore the blade from his hand and offered it to Ino to handle first. Kurenai stiffened, but the Hokage's grip on her arm stopped her from intervening as Ino accepted the bloody talisman. No more waiting to be saved. Her voice was barely audible, but her hand moved with the same dedication her teammates had shown, slicing through flesh and drawing blood without hesitation. She freed her hand and grasped Hinata's as Naruto wrapped his hand around the pair, completing the bloody union. For good or for ill, we are Team 10. Brother, sisters, lovers and friends. Hinata spoke next. Bound in will through blood and steel, we do not bow, we do not kneel. Naruto picked up next, his voice as soothing and lyrical as his female teammates. We face our fears, our sins atone. We stand together, we'll not die alone. 3 voices rose together in a single cadence. The bonds are forged, the calling done. The strength of 3 with the heart of 1. Naruto blinked slowly and was the first to speak in a hushed whisper. What the hell was that? I don't know. Ino said in a panicked tone. I just said the first thing that came to mind and then I couldn't stop. It is not uncommon for a new team to have a phrase or saying that binds them together, the Hokage said soothingly. My students, the legendary Sannin, had such a phrase, as did your father's team, Ino. They went on to do great things, as I believe you will. But now, perhaps it would be best if we dealt with those kunai wounds, eh? The genin stared in shock at their still joined hands. Oh yeah, Ino murmured, making no move to separate from her teammates. I drove a kunai through my hand, didn't I? Which was a very reckless thing, Kurenai scolded gently as she returned from the kitchen with 3 hand towels. You could have done serious damage to your hands, to say nothing of the amount of blood you lost. Now, Kurenai, Sarutobi interjected. We all do reckless things when we're young. But if everyone is alright, I really should be getting back to work. What time is it? Hinata asked. 7:45, the Hokage answered politely. Naruto's eyes bulged comically. The library opens in 15 minutes. He exclaimed, frantically forming a now familiar cross-shaped hand seal. Kage Bunshin, release. For a moment, nothing happened, and then the blonde prankster fell to the floor screaming in pain. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, fighting back a monstrous headache. You love making work for me, don't you? Kyuubi growled, helping her host to his feet. What happened? The boy mumbled, swaying unsteadily. You decided it would be a good idea to reabsorb several hundred Kage Bunshin at once, the fox girl said wryly, eyeing the prankster as he wobbled unsteadily. If you were anyone else, that stunt would have left your brains leaking out your ears and maybe a few other strategic places. Don't you think before you act? Sorry, Naruto grumbled, shaking his head to stave off the throbbing pain. I had this nightmare last night. He trailed off in time to see Kyuubi duck her head guiltily. That was you? He gaped. Naruto. Damn it. I trusted you. The shinobi ran. It's not what you think, the Redeed tried desperately to explain. You gave me your word. Naruto stumbled as he took an infuriated swing at the older girl who easily wrestled him to the ground. Damn it, brat. Will you listen? The demoness held her host captive until his thrashing slowed. I hurt you. I admit it and I hate it. But I'm not without my reasons. What reasons could you possibly have for scaring the crap out of me and my teammates? The youth asked with tears of betrayal streaming down his face. Someone had to put you 3 on the right track, Kyuubi explained. You wanted power for power's sake, putting you on the road to tyranny. Hinata was infatuated with an image of you that led to blind obedience. And Ino's dislike of you would have tainted her actions to the point of obstinacy. So, I showed you all your failings and fears, and hopefully, you're better for it. I hope you don't just expect me to roll over and forgive you. But your heart was in the right place so thanks, I guess, Naruto grunted. What about that thing we said, that calling? I'm not sure, Kyuubi admitted, running her S through his shining blonde hair. Spoken words are some of the oldest, most powerful magic around, but the spoken language has made it the most common. So you could have done something or nothing at all. The pair sat quietly as Naruto brooded on that answer. So, did you manage to make me tick any better? Actually, I did. And I found a couple of odd things. The vixen scrambled to her feet, pulling her charge quickly with her. One isn't so much a thing as a person. What the hell? I shouldn't have a third person in here. Heck, most normal people don't have 2. Naruto seemed confused as Kyuubi led him through the maze of corridors to an elegant double door. "She's in here, most likely," Kyuubi said, swinging the doors open to reveal a massive library. "Once I got her out from under all those chains, she started setting up this place." "Who exactly is she?" Naruto demanded. "My name is Libris," a third voice interjected. "Simply put, you could say I'm your intellect or your smart side if you had one." "Damn it, even in my head I get no respect." "That's it. I'm outta here." Naruto proceeded to look for an exit that didn't exist in his mind. "If you were smart, you would know that you can't leave yet because you're still unconscious," the unseen being taunted in a sing-song voice. "Why don't you show yourself, damn it?" "You used that particular bit of profanity already, but since you ask so nicely." Libris's voice dripped with sarcasm as she chuckled, "I suppose I can indulge you." Naruto blinked in shock as a young, blonde girl, about 9 years old, stepped out from behind a desk. She pushed her large horn-rimmed glasses back up her nose as her azure eyes twinkled with a mix of arrogance and mischief. All in all, Naruto likened the disconcerting feeling to looking in a mirror. "Okay, you're gonna have to explain some things, then. Let's see, why am I here, why am I a girl, and why am I so small, correct?" Naruto nodded as Kyuubi lifted the chibi up and set her atop the table. She tipped her head to one side and tapped her thoughtfully. Let's see, how to explain in simple terms," the little girl mused. "I do need to make sure you understand this, after all." "Why are you such a smartass?" Naruto snapped. "Why are you such a dumbass?" His opponent returned without hesitation. "Naruto, what did I tell you about antagonizing people?" Kyuubi admonished. "She started it," he replied sullenly. "Which one of you is a recognized adult?" Kyuubi met his eyes firmly. Naruto grimaced. Part of him knew Kyuubi was trying to be mature about the whole thing, but part of him still felt like he was being double-teamed in his own head. "And you?" The fox girl reached over and whacked Libris sharply on the back of her head. "What the blazes was that for?" The pint-sized personification yelped as she simultaneously attempted to recover her balance and her glasses, looking quite awkward in the process. All of Naruto felt better at that moment. "I don't see why you favor that thick-headed clod," the smaller girl grumbled. "I'm not favoring either of you, but someone has to keep order here. As the oldest, that falls to me," Kyuubi replied tartly. "Now, contrary to what you may think, we have a limited amount of time, so read his mind and answer the questions." "Not like there's a lot to read," Libris muttered. Unfortunately for her, Kyuubi heard her clearly and slammed her hand hard onto the table, glaring at the younger girl with flames in her eyes. "All right." Libris yelped, shuffling backwards in fear. "All right. No more smart-ass remarks." Kyuubi growled, burning crimson eyes reminding all present that a benevolent demon is still a demon. "No more remarks." Libris promised, turning her attention to Naruto. "Close your mouth. Open your ears. Listen. Grow wise." Naruto nodded mutely at each of Libris's demands, then waited patiently as the little girl closed her eyes for a moment. "As I said, my name is Libris, and I represent the intellectual part of you might say the book smarts. I'm the reason you've been making those logical progressions, sort of like putting a puzzle together. I've been the one showing you how to make the picture." "Does that mean I'm not as smart as Kurenai-sensei and Ino-chan think I am?" Naruto asked. "And that's a bit of a rusty kunai, there. You and I are one and the same, and yet at the same time we're very different. I guess the best analogy would be the Inyazukas and their dogs. As a human, you have more freedom and ability. As much as it pains me to say this, I'd be your nin dog, capable of limited feats on my own, but a great asset when we work together. Understand?" She looked up, half expecting to see the boy laughing at their roles in the master dog analogy, but Naruto just nodded and motioned for her to continue. "As for my gender, I'm a girl because, subconsciously, you think that girls are smarter than boys." "No way." Naruto exclaimed. "I can't believe I'm saying this but yes way," Libris deadpanned. "Think, Naruto. All the smartest people in your life, the ones with the best grades at the academy. All of them are women, yes? Well, yeah, but what about the Hokage? He's the smartest person in the village, and he's a guy, too." "You mean the same man who was defeated by a no?" the younger girl replied with a grin. "Face it, deep down you think girls are smarter. Hence me. As for my size, I hate to say it like this, but I'm small because you're stupid." Naruto growled in his, but resisted the desire to explode. "Please explain." He managed through tightly gritted teeth. "I'm your book smarts," Libris explained. "Normally I would have grown during your time at the academy, but because you ditched class so much, I'm not as mature as I would normally be." "Of course there is more to that," Kyuubi chimed in. "Do you recall that I mentioned finding Libris bound in chains?" The young shinobi nodded. "Those chains were representative of a ninja technique used on dangerous prisoners and violent hospital patients. It restricts part of the mind." Naruto frowned. "But who would want to do that to me? And why?" "Simple. By reducing the mind to simple functions, it makes the prisoner easier to handle because he or she is less capable of complex planning, Libris explained. Unfortunately, I have no way of knowing who did this to you, since it's a common technique for any shinobi traveling outside the village. Carrying on, I grow as you learn things. But I just read a huge bunch of books. You should be a giant. Not quite, Libra said. This is another one of those odd things. You did read a lot. Your clones did take in a lot of information. Can you remember clearly any knowledge you acquired last night or the proper way to apply that knowledge? Naruto scrunched his face up in thought, then shook his head. See now, you know a lot, but you haven't learned much. So as I learn to apply what I know, you'll grow. That makes sense. But what's the deal with the library? Bound or not, I've always been around collecting information. This library is the result of that collection. I guess you could say it represents what we all know, you, me and Kyuubi. Libris held up her hand to forestall Naruto's next question. But there's a problem that came from my binding, only bits and pieces of these books make any sense. That's part of my job as your intellect, making sense of all this. Am I always going to have you in my head? Naruto asked, half hopefully. No, not always. In time I'll mature enough to catch up with you, and then the young girl flushed a brilliant crimson. We'll merge. Just how Libris cut off the question abruptly. What has Kyuubi shown you? Libris blurted. Naruto pondered that information. Yes, you can do that here. Eventually, you'll merge the two of us into one being. I have no idea what will happen with Kyuubi. I don't recommend trying it without additional information. If you do it prematurely, we'll still merge, but your mind won't be at its fullest. Now can we please stop talking about this? The smaller girl pleaded. We will have to continue this another time, Kyuubi murmured. I still want to show Naruto the other oddity I found. Would you like me to come with you? Libris asked, arching an eyebrow. If you wish, though we will be making haste, the Redeed said in warning. Curse these short of mine, the younger girl mumbled. That on. Naruto crouched down with his back to Libris. What? The little personification gaped in shock. I'll carry you piggyback, Naruto said. I wanna see this thing, you wanna see it, and we're burning time we don't have. Hop on. Libris blinked in surprise as she slipped her arms loosely around Naruto's neck. Quickly the shinobi hooked his arms under her knees at the elbow, lacing his S together over his stomach. Kyuubi, lead the way. Kyuubi smiled and led the way out of the library as Naruto bobbed along at a gently rolling gait. Maybe his wisdom lies not in his head, but in his heart. The little girl thought with a smile as Kyuubi led them down a long flight of metal stairs. Sorry about this, Naruto. I haven't gotten around to installing the elevator yet, Kyuubi jokes. Although I do have some good news for you. By meditating on the seal, I was able to tap into the Shinigami's power and talk to him, and I got myself reinstated as the boss summon for the Fox contract, for which you are the current holder. I also called in a favor from an old friend, and she's coming to see if either of your teammates are worthy of summoning her. But we don't know how to summon it. Naruto protested. That's a Jonin level skill. So is your Kage Bunshin, Libris replied. As far as summoning goes, theoretically it's very simple, once you've signed a contract. You present a small offering of blood, usually a bite mark is sufficient, and make the proper hand seals to channel your chakra. Unfortunately, none of us know what those seals are. Not even you, Kyuubi? Naruto asked. The Redeed shook her head. I always had other ways of calling for help when I needed it. But the Fox contract is special, as it allows you to summon mundane foxes, demonic foxes, and Kitsune, or fox spirits. You'll have to practice with the summoning to see which results you get, a sort of trial and error. Although summoning demon foxes will be easier if you use my chakra, I suspect. What do you mean by your chakra? Naruto murmured. Come this way and I can show you, the Vixen stated, leading the way onto a long metal catwalk overlooking a series of 12 large storage tanks. These represent your chakra reserves, and the piping leading into and out from them represent your chakra coils. Most people only have access to a single store, so their reserves look something like a lake. Now, 10 of these are for my chakra, the largest one for my body, and the 9 smaller ones for my tails. The other 2 tanks are yours, but the contents of all the tanks are drastically different. Kyuubi looked around before leading the way to a secondary catwalk over one of her tail tanks. Dip your hand in there. Naruto looked warily at the liquid in the tank. Is it safe? Of course it is, Naruto. My chakra is a part of you now. Kyuubi smiled sadly. That is one of the benefits of being my. Seeing her container's perplexed look, she continued her explanation. That's what they call those like you who hold a demon within their bodies. The literal definition is power of a human sacrifice, Libris explained, on account that you are no longer simply a human being, but also a living prison. So the villagers are right? Naruto asked sadly. I'm just a demon. Hardly, Kyuubi scoffed. Those foolish humans are mistaking the container for the contents. You aren't a demon until you start to produce sufficient quantities of your own, or demonic chakra. Which should be impossible for a human, even with my presence. But that is an explanation for another time, something we are sorely lacking. With that, she gestured back to the tank before them, and the blonde obligingly dipped his hand in. It feels weird, like jelly, he commented, rubbing the viscous fluid through his S. Can I do ninjutsu with your chakra? Yauki, Kyuubi corrected absently. And yes, you can, but they may react oddly. Yauki is very powerful, so you get, as you humans say, more bang for your Ryo. It will also make them inherently unstable, so tread with caution. Over here is your human chakra. Kyuubi said, leading the way to another tank filled with a deep blue fluid. These tanks are huge. Naruto observed wryly. Of course. You constantly train to exhaustion, and that is the best way to expand your reserves. Of course, I did help a little. You can't honestly expect to squeeze something as powerful as me into something as small as you and not expect it to swell at the sides. Your chakra coils and reserves literally grew around me, the fox girl preened. Aren't we modest? Libris quipped as Naruto crouched over the railing and trailed his hand through the mysterious fluid. What do you think? It's still thick, but much thinner than. The blonde youth stood careful not to dislodge his small passenger. The consistency reminds me of oil. But if you have 10 tanks and I have this one, what is that one? He pointed to the last bat. That Kyuubi smiled as she led the way to the end of the catwalk where a ladder descended to the base of the tanks, is the mystery. This is the fastest way down, and I don't know how much time we have left until you wake up, so move fast, she added as she descended the ladder. Naruto watched until his tenant had climbed 3/4 of the way down before swinging over the side and bracing his feet against the ladder's rails. Hang on tight, okay. Libris nodded grimly, tightening her grip on her mount's neck and locking her feet firmly about his middle. Satisfied, the blonde boy shifted his hands from rung to rail and began to slide, picking up speed as the pair descended. Kyuubi, sensing Naruto's intent, hurried down a few more rungs and then dropped to the ground. Scant moments after she landed, she stepped back and caught the other two as they landed. Good hustle, Kyuubi said, leading Naruto over to the base of the tanks. This is the weird thing we've all been dying to understand, she said, pointing to a large mechanism sitting between the tank of Naruto's chakra and his mysterious 10th tank. A length of pipe coming out of either side connected the two as the device hummed merrily along. I can't tell what it is because you're the first human I've been sealed in, but I think it may represent some kind of bloodline ability. I have a bloodline. Maybe, Kyuubi said. If so, I have no idea what it's supposed to do. I just managed to get it running last night, aside from a brief turnover the night we met. Wait a second, Naruto murmured, narrowing his eyes. The morning after we met, I found an Anbu kunoichi in bed with me. Well, that is odd, Kyuubi replied, tapping her chin in thought. The two might be related, somehow. Anyway, as near as I can tell, all this does make more chakra. Seeing her host's confused look, she elaborated, it doesn't actually make chakra, but it transforms your normal chakra into something different. So I have 2 different types of chakra, Naruto mused, already looking for an edge. Can I use them both for my ninjutsu? You can, Kyuubi said carefully, but I don't see why you'd want to. The second chakra is much thinner than normal and, I can only presume, weaker than the original. How do you know that? Well, there's a little valve on the side here, I guess a pressure release or something. Crack it open a bit and see for yourself. Kyuubi gestured to the mechanism in question and Naruto obligingly twisted the handle, letting a dime-sized drop fall into his palm. Well, it is lighter. Naruto murmured, rubbing the watery fluid with the thumb of his opposite hand. Suddenly a shiver ran down his spine. Oh my. Are you alright, Naruto? Libris asked. Yeah, he said shakily, looking down at the faded speck of silver. I think so, but it's time for me to wake up. Naruto blinked as he faded out of his mindscape. So, did you see it? Kyuubi asked. His mind is open to me, as it is mine as well, Libris said, a slightly perverted grin crossing her face as the fox swung her onto her shoulders and started back up the ladder. Fascinating that it can affect him here, same as us. So overall, what do you think? With all the women in his life, it's going to be very interesting, Kyuubi said with a wry smile and a faraway look. Naruto. Ino looked on with worry as the other blonde slowly sat up. Are you alright? I think so, he grunted, cautiously gathering his feet under him. What, exactly, happened to me? That was an acute case of mental overload, a new voice explained. You tried to absorb too much information from your cage buncheon and your mind shut down to deal with the flow. You've been out for about half an hour. Thank you, miss. Dr. Yuzuki Shion. The brunette smiled as she reached up to touch the strip of metal running across the bridge of her nose. Running a spark of chakra through the metal, she transformed it into a pair of glasses. The Hokage called me here after you collapsed. Naruto arched an eyebrow, studying the woman more closely. Huh? You don't have a forehead protector, so I'm assuming you're part of the medical corps rather than a combat field medic. Do you have any siblings in the shinobi program? Xian nodded with a slight smile. My sister Yugao is a shinobi. Do you know her? I've heard that name in passing, so maybe. Naruto gave her his usual sunny grin, then turned to Sarutobi. So, what exactly happened, old man? The Kage Bunshin is an incredibly powerful technique with two major flaws, the Hokage explained, lighting his pipe and opening a window. First is the fact that the user distributes all of their chakra evenly between the original and all of their clones. Creating one clone divides your chakra in half, two splits it 3 ways, and so on. Now, how many clones did you leave at the library last night? I don't know, Naruto said, casually scratching the back of his head. A couple hundred, maybe. Jaws dropped and eyebrows rose. Xian summed up everyone's thoughts nicely. You split your chakra over 200 ways, and you're still alive. Are you sure you're a genin? I've got large reserves for my age, I guess, Naruto shrugged. I mean, I felt a little dip in my reserves after I made all those clones, but I was still okay to make it back here from the library. We're going to have to find a way to burn off all your chakra one of these days and find out your limit. Ino said, idly rubbing the thin white scar of her recently healed oath wound. Naruto-kun, you said that your Kage Bunshin retain their knowledge when they're dispelled, correct? Hinata asked. Yeah. That was the whole point of filling the library. And that is the second flaw in the Kage Bunshin, the interrupted. If you take in too much information in that manner. If you're extremely lucky, Naruto supplied, you only end up with a nasty headache. But then why didn't I have this problem when I fought Mizuki? Mizuki, the academy instructor. Ino looked surprised. What's that all about? It's alright for you to tell them later, Sarutobi interjected. A team must be able to trust each other, after all. As for your question, Naruto, I believe that because all your clones were focused on a single act, the focus mitigated the damaging mental effects. Naruto nodded, turning to Xian. So, Doc, am I cleared? Xian blinked herself out of her daze. Why yes, she stammered, catching a bit of drool before it could become too noticeable. Just try not to overexert yourself for the rest of the day, and you should be okay. And if you need anything medical, any of you, ask for me by name. That's great. Naruto exclaimed, smacking his fist into his open palm. Kurenai-sensei, just so we're clear, where are we meeting? Huh? The elder kunoichi shook herself out of her stupor. Training ground 12 at 10 o'clock. You sure? The blonde frowned. I thought you said training ground 10 at 12 o'clock yesterday. The mistress blinked. Yes. That's what I said. 12 at 10. But you just never mind. See you at noon, training ground 10, same as our team. Yeah. That works, Kurenai mumbled, staring at Naruto in a slight daze as the Sandom gently pulled the oblivious doctor out into the hallway, using a minor wind to close the door behind him. Well that was weird, Naruto muttered turning to face his two starry-eyed teammates. Oh, for Kami's sake. He snapped, rolling his eyes as he brought a hand down hard on each of their shapely backsides. Snap out of it. What the hell was that for? Ino barked, rubbing her abused posterior. You were staring at me like I'm some kind of Bishinen model, Naruto called over his shoulder. I mean, if you're gonna gawk, wait till I'm dot. Hinata's hand started through hand seals for her before Ino grabbed her hands and shook her head. Hinata responded with a puppy dog pout before both headed off to change, meeting back at the door as Naruto pulled his shoes on. Are we ready to go? Sure, but where are we going? You said yourself people don't exactly like having you around. Ino asked, forcing herself to remain focused. True, but the commerce laws say they can't turn me away so long as I have sufficient money to pay for my purchases, Naruto grinned, tapping his chin. I usually get my best deals in the northern part of town, so we'll start there. If worst comes to worst I can throw up a henge. It might be better if you don't, Ino murmured thoughtfully. I mean, the clothes might all fit the same, but what looks good on your henge might not work so well with you. If you say so, I'll trust your judgment. Naruto replied, locking the door as they trooped out. Naruto winced sympathetically as a teenage girl and her mother stared at him almost longingly, then drifted face first into a street lamp and a wall, respectively. Why is everyone staring at me today? The blonde groused aloud, not expecting an answer from his equally enchanted teammates. Since leaving the apartment, the fox-faced shinobi had left a trail of stunned women and puzzled-looking men in his wake, and Ino and Hinata were flanking him at such an angle that they both had a clear view of his face at all times. Naruto, being the considerate person he was, crossed the road and helped his latest unfortunate victims back to their feet. After they assured him that they were alright and the younger girl slipped him her phone number, Naruto turned to the brightly colored flyer hung on the pole of the slightly dented street lamp. Well. It seems there's a new shinobi shop opening a few blocks from here, he mused aloud, setting off at a slightly increased pace. This should do nicely, unless the other shop owners have started up the rumor mill already. In short order, the Kyuubi container found himself entering a modest establishment. A few of the customers threw glares at the boy, but Naruto just smiled back at them. I keep you safe from what you fear, just by being alive. So if you want to hate me if it helps you sleep at night, he thought grimly. Me, I'll just keep smiling. Welcome to Dodoji's grand opening extravaganza. The dark-haired teenage girl chirped, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. What can I help you with today? I'm looking for a new wardrobe, something ninja-ish. Naruto replied, groaning inwardly as the young girl's eyes grew unfocused. And I think I'll start with a mask. Would you be interested in a fuller half mask? An older woman spoke up from behind as she reached out and squeezed the younger girl's nose until she started to squirm away. For Kami's sake, Tomoyo, just because he's kind of cute is no reason to gawk at the boy. Now'll add, fuller half. What's the difference? Naruto asked. The older lady beckoned the group over to a wall, sneaking furtive looks at the boy the whole while. A full mask is commonly what the Anbu wear, so named for the obvious fact that it conceals the entire face. A bit clunky for a first-timer though, and likely to attract unwanted attention. A half mask comes up from your collar to about the bridge of your nose. Okay, what do you recommend? Nothing at all. Tomoyo sighed happily, earning herself another nose tweak. Why would you want to hide any of that gorgeous face? So he doesn't have ladies young and old drowning in their drool. Shame though. She ran her roughened hand over the boy's whiskered cheek. You are quite handsome. If I were 20 years younger. The half mask. Naruto yelped in a panic. Black, maybe. With some reluctance, the older woman produced the desired article and helped Naruto fit it on. I don't think that quite works. Ino murmured, slowly coming out of her stupor. I mean the mask looks good, but the color doesn't quite work. Naruto said something, but it was slightly muffled by his mask. You're going to have to speak up a bit to be understood through the mask, but it provides a tactical advantage, since your enemies won't know just what you're doing. I said, maybe in blue then, Naruto repeated. It would go with your eyes, but we have to pick the right shade for your skin tone. Ino turned and rummaged among the masks before surfacing with a handful in various shades of blue, from nearly white to a navy indistinguishable from the black mask he wore now. Gomen, Naruto. This may take more time than we have. At least the mask will be the basis for the color scheme, right? Naruto asked as the four women began narrowing down the possibilities. I didn't think you knew anything about color schemes. Ino said, throwing the lighter-hued masks back in the pile. I may not know a lot, but I do know some. Why do you think it's orange and blue and not orange and green? Ino paled. Thank you for sparing us that, Naruto. The visualization has made me physically ill. You favor orange and blue, eh? The older woman mused thoughtfully. That's not exactly stealthy. Hence my need for a new wardrobe, Dodoji-san. Dodoji-san makes me feel older than I am. Just call me Sonomi-san. And you've met my daughter Tomoyo-chan. The newly identified Sonomi waved off his protests as she pulled out a number of masks from the darker end of the spectrum. That's just what you need. She said approvingly. So, pants next. In short order, Naruto was outfitted in simple black cargo pants and a tight-fitting navy blue t-shirt with a dark orange spiral, this being the sole concession to his unique fashion tastes. The outfit was accessorized with a modest white jacket, a utility vest similar to those worn by upper level 9, and a pair of black lace gloves with a leaf symbol etched into a metal plate on the back. After collecting some basic shinobi tools, the group went to pay for their purchases. Naruto paused as something caught his eye. Sonomi-san, what are these? He asked, picking up the elongated wrist bracers. Partial body armor. The bracers attach like so. And the shin guards go like that. Sonomi and Tomoyo expertly fitted the new garments. Beneath the outer cloth of the bracers and guards is a layer of leather, with 3 layers of tight woven chain mesh beneath. If necessary they can be used to stop shuriken, kunai, and most small swords. Can you add some training weights? Naruto asked, turning his arm over thoughtfully. Sure. Lots of shinobi wear weighted clothes. If you want I could add something to your jacket as well, and they'd be ready by the end of the week. How much did you have in mind? Can I try 10 in the limbs and 20 in the jacket? The young shinobi asked. Sonomi nodded and produced 2 10-pound bars which she balanced expertly on his outstretched arms. Yes, this will do for a start. Sonomi-san. Hinata spoke up hesitantly. May I try 5, please? No need to be shy, miss, Sonomi replied cheerfully. I'm here to help you. Now let's see how these feel. What about you, Ino-chan? Her fellow blonde asked. I don't see why not. 5 as well. Although. What is it, Ino-chan? Hinata posed a question from where she stood with the smaller weights balanced on each arm, her jacket discarded over the back of a chair. It's just, I'm used to leading, kind of, and now it seems like I'm the last on the team to take action. She raised her hand, showing the jagged white scar on the back of her hand. I kinda feel like a lemming. Ouch. Naruto exclaimed in mock agony. So I'm a cliff now? Well, technically, you'd be the steep drop-off of the cliff, Naruto-kun. Hinata interjected with a giggle that threatened to dislodge her weights. You're not helping, Hina-chan, Naruto growled. Anyway Ino-chan, we all have our specialties, and that's where we lead. Hina's a scout, I'm a brute, and you're intelligent. I used to be a shinobi. Naruto Ino looked on with worry as the other blonde slowly sat up. Are you alright? I think so, he grunted, cautiously gathering his feet under him. What, exactly, happened to me? That was an acute case of mental overload, a new voice explained. You tried to absorb too much information from your cage bunshin, and your mind shut down to deal with the flow. You've been out for about half an hour. Thank you, miss. Dr. Yuzuki Shion. The brunette smiled as she reached up to touch the strip of metal running across the bridge of her nose. Running a spark of chakra through the metal, she transformed it into a pair of glasses. The Hokage called me here after you collapsed. Naruto arched an eyebrow, studying the woman more closely. Yuzuki, huh? You don't have a forehead protector, so I'm assuming you're part of the medical corps rather than a combat field medic. Do you have any siblings in the shinobi program? Shion nodded with a slight smile. My sister Yugao is a shinobi. Do you know her? I've heard that name in passing, so maybe. Naruto gave her his usual sunny grin, then turned to Sarutobi. So, what exactly happened, old man? The cage bunshin is an incredibly powerful technique with two major flaws, the Hokage explained, lighting his pipe and opening a window. First is the fact that the user distributes all of their chakra evenly between the original and all of their clones. Creating one clone divides your chakra in half, two splits it three ways, and so on. Now, how many clones did you leave at the library last night? I don't know, Naruto said, casually scratching the back of his head. A couple hundred, maybe. Jaws dropped and eyebrows rose. Shion summed up everyone's thoughts nicely. You split your chakra over 200 ways, and you're still alive. Are you sure you're a genin? I've got large reserves for my age, I guess. Naruto shrugged. I mean, I felt a little dip in my reserves after I made all those clones, but I was still okay to make it back here from the library. We're going to have to find a way to burn off all your chakra one of these days and find out your limit. Ino said, idly rubbing the thin white scar of her recently healed oath wound. Naruto-kun, you said that your cage bunshin retain their knowledge when they're dispelled, correct? Hinata asked. Yeah. That was the whole point of filling the library. And that is the second flaw in the cage bunshin, the Hokage interrupted. If you take in too much information in that manner. If you're extremely lucky, Naruto supplied, you only end up with a nasty headache. But then why didn't I have this problem when I fought Mizuki? Mizuki, the academy instructor. Ino looked surprised. What's that all about? It's alright for you to tell them later, Sarutobi interjected. A team must be able to trust each other, after all. As for your question, Naruto, I believe that because all your clones were focused on a single act, the focus mitigated the damaging mental effects. Naruto nodded, turning to Shion. So, Doc, am I cleared? Shion blinked herself out of her daze. Why yes, she stammered, catching a bit of drool before it could become too noticeable. Just try not to overexert yourself for the rest of the day and you should be okay. And if you need anything medical, any of you, ask for me by name. That's great, Naruto exclaimed, smacking his fist into his open palm. Kurenai-sensei, just so we're clear, where are we meeting? The elder Kunoichi shook herself out of her stupor. Training ground 12 at 10 o'clock. You sure? The blonde frowned. I thought you said training ground 10 at 12 o'clock yesterday. The genjutsu mistress blinked. Yes. That's what I said. 12 at 10. But you just never mind. See you at noon, training ground 10, same as our team. Yeah. That works, Kurenai mumbled, staring at Naruto in a slight daze as the Sandom gently pulled the oblivious doctor and Jonin out into the hallway, using a minor wind jutsu to close the door behind him. Well, that was weird, Naruto muttered, turning to face his two starry-eyed teammates. Oh, for Kami's sake, he snapped, rolling his eyes as he brought a hand down hard on each of their shapely backsides. Snap out of it. What the hell was that for? Ino barked, rubbing her abused posterior. You were staring at me like I'm some kind of Bishinen model, Naruto called over his shoulder. I mean, if you're gonna gawk, wait till I'm naked. Hinata's hand started through hand seals for her Byakugan before Ino grabbed her hands and shook her head. Hinata responded with a puppy dog pout before both headed off to change, meeting back at the door as Naruto pulled his shoes on. Are we ready to go? Sure, but where are we going? You said yourself people don't exactly like having you around. Ino asked, forcing herself to remain focused. True, but the commerce laws say they can't turn me away so long as I have sufficient money to pay for my purchases, Naruto grinned, tapping his chin. I usually get my best deals in the northern part of town, so we'll start there. If worst comes to worst I can throw up a henge. It might be better if you don't, Ino murmured thoughtfully. I mean, the clothes might all fit the same, but what looks good on your henge might not work so well with you. If you say so, I'll trust your judgment. Naruto replied, locking the door as they trooped out. XXXXX. Naruto winced sympathetically as a teenage girl and her mother stared at him almost longingly, then drifted face first into a street lamp on the wall, respectively. Why is everyone staring at me today? The blonde groused aloud, not expecting an answer from his equally enchanted teammates. Since leaving the apartment, the fox-faced shinobi had left a trail of stunned women and puzzled-looking men in his wake, and Ino and Hinata were flanking him at such an angle that they both had a clear view of his face at all times. Naruto, being the considerate person he was, crossed the road and helped his latest unfortunate victims back to their feet. After they assured him that they were alright and the younger girl slipped him her phone number, Naruto turned to the brightly colored flyer hung on the pole of the slightly dented street lamp. Well. It seems there's a new shinobi shop opening a few blocks from here, he mused aloud, setting off at a slightly increased pace. This should do nicely, unless the other shop owners have started up the rumor mill already. In short order, the Kyuubi container found himself entering a modest establishment. A few of the customers threw glares at the boy, but Naruto just smiled back at them. I keep you safe from what you fear, just by being alive. So if you want to hate me if it helps you sleep at night, he thought grimly. I'll just keep smiling. Welcome to Dodoji's grand opening extravaganza. Dark-haired teenage girl chirped, interrupting Naruto's thoughts. What can I help you with today? I'm looking for a new wardrobe, something ninja-ish. Naruto replied, groaning inwardly as the young girl's eyes grew unfocused. And I think I'll start with a mask. Would you be interested in a full or half mask? An older woman spoke up from behind as she reached out and squeezed the younger girl's nose until she started to squirm away. For Kami's sake, Tomoyo, just because he's kind of cute is no reason to gawk at the boy. Now I'll add, full or half. What's the difference? Naruto asked. The older lady beckoned the group over to a wall, sneaking furtive looks at the boy the whole while. A full mask is commonly what the Anbu wear, so named for the obvious fact that it conceals the entire face. A bit clunky for a first-timer though, and likely to attract unwanted attention. A half mask comes up from your collar to about the bridge of your nose. Okay, what do you recommend? Nothing at all. Tomoyo sighed happily, earning herself another nose tweak. Why would you want to hide any of that gorgeous face? So he doesn't have ladies young and old drowning in their drool. Shame though. She ran her roughened hand over the boy's whiskered cheek. You are quite handsome. If I were 20 years younger. The half mask. Naruto yelped in a panic. Black, maybe. With some reluctance, the older woman produced the desired article and helped Naruto fit it on. I don't think that quite works. Ino murmured, slowly coming out of her stupor. I mean that mask looks good, but the color doesn't quite work. Naruto said something, but it was slightly muffled by his mask. You're going to have to speak up a bit to be understood through the mask, but it provides a tactical advantage, since your enemies won't know just what you're doing. I said, maybe in blue. Then Naruto repeated. It would go with your eyes, but we have to pick the right shade for your skin tone. Ino turned and rummaged among the masks, before surfacing with a handful in various shades of blue, from nearly white to a navy indistinguishable from the black mask he wore now. Gomen, Naruto. This may take more time than we have. At least the mask will be the basis for the color scheme, right? Naruto asked as the four women began narrowing down the possibilities. I didn't think you knew anything about color schemes. Ino said, throwing the lighter-hued masks back in the pile. I may not know a lot, but I do know some. Why do you think it's orange and blue and not orange and green? Ino paled. Thank you for sparing us that, Naruto. The visualization has made me physically ill. You favor orange and blue, the older woman mused thoughtfully. That's not exactly stealthy. Hence my need for a new wardrobe, Dodoji-san. Dodoji-san makes me feel older than I am. Just call me Sonomi-san. And you've met my daughter Tomoyo-chan. The newly identified Sonomi waved off his protests as she pulled out a number of masks from the darker end of the spectrum. That's just what you need. She said approvingly. So, pants next. In short order, Naruto was outfitted in simple black cargo pants and a tight-fitting navy blue t-shirt with a dark orange spiral, this being the sole concession to his unique fashion tastes. The outfit was accessorized with a modest white jacket, a utility vest similar to those worn by upper-level nins, and a pair of black fingerless gloves with a leaf symbol etched into a metal plate on the back. After collecting some basic shinobi tools, the group went to pay for their purchases. Naruto paused as something caught his eye. Sonomi-san, what are these? He asked, picking up the elongated wrist bracers. Partial body armor. The bracers attach like so. And the shin guards go like that. Sonomi and Tomoyo expertly fitted the new garments. Beneath the outer cloth of the bracers and guards is a layer of leather, with 3 layers of tight woven chain mesh beneath. If necessary they can be used to stop shuriken, kunai, and most small swords. Can you add some training weights? Naruto asked, turning his arm over thoughtfully. Sure. Lots of shinobi wear weighted clothes. If you want I could add something to your jacket as well, and they'd be ready by the end of the week. How much did you have in mind? Can I try 10 pounds in the limbs and 20 in the jacket? The young shinobi asked. Sonomi nodded and produced 2 10-pound bars which she balanced expertly on his outstretched arms. Yes, this will do for a start. Sonomi-san. Hinata spoke up hesitantly. May I try 5 pounds, please? No need to be shy, Miss Sonomi replied cheerfully. I'm here to help you. Now let's see how these feel. What about you, Ino-chan? Her fellow blonde asked. I don't see why not. 5 pounds as well. Although. What is it, Ino-chan? Hinata posed a question from where she stood with the smaller weights balanced on each arm, her jacket discarded over the back of a chair. It's just, I'm used to leading, kind of, and now it seems like I'm the last on the team to take action. She raised her hand, showing the jagged white scar on the back of her hand. I kinda feel like a lemming. Ouch, Naruto exclaimed in mock agony. So I'm a cliff now? Well, technically, you'd be the steep drop off of the cliff, Naruto-kun. Hinata interjected with a giggle that threatened to dislodge her weights. You're not helping, Hina-chan. Naruto growled. Anyway, Ino-chan, we all have our specialties, and that's where we lead. Hina's a scout, I'm a brute, and you your intelligence. I used to be a shinobi myself, though I'm retired now. Sonomi slipped fluidly into the conversation. And Naruto's right. You'll all have your chance to shine, or be shined on. Now then, Miss Ino, was it? Let's see to your weights. XXXXX. It was 11 o'clock by the time Team 10 took their leave and made their way to their training ground, with a brief stop to deposit Naruto's new clothes. We have an hour to kill before Kurenai-sensei gets here. Naruto yawned. Any ideas? We could go for a jog, Ino suggested. Naruto perked up as she waved them over and drew a rough diamond shape in the dirt. Now if memory serves, we are at training ground 10, here. She pointed to the top of the dust diamond. Training ground 7, 8 and 9 should also be in this block, going counterclockwise from here. She paused to point to the left-hand corner. And most rookie teams practice on a training ground that's the same as their team number. How do you know all this? Naruto gestured to the diamond. There are maps of the various training grounds all over the village. Don't tell me you've never looked at them. Actually, I haven't. I just went to where I knew a training ground was, and if it was occupied, I wandered around until I found one that wasn't. That tears it. Ino stood up hastily. We're going to have to make sure you know where to find allies if you need them. We'll start with training ground 7. Leaving no further room for argument, the taller blonde picked a direction and started to jog with her teammates, catching up in an easy burst of speed. They made good time and soon stood at training ground 7 where they immediately noticed something wrong. Where's their sensei? Naruto murmured aloud. No, but they should, Ino replied before raising her voice to a shout. Hey forehead. Aren't you a little young to be wandering around by yourself? Shut it, Ino pig, Sakura fired back. Our sensei told us to be here at 7. Do you seriously mean your teacher is 4 hours late? Hinata stared in disbelief. She'd been raised with the mince at that time as a valuable commodity, and like any such commodity, wasting it was frowned on heavily. Yeah, but what can you do? Kiba tossed back from his spot under the tree. What about you guys? Kurenai-sensei is meeting us at our training ground at noon, Naruto replied. We're doing laps around the training grounds to kill time until we go for a mission. Hey forehead, you wanna join us? It's a good way to get in shape, Ino prompted. And get all sweaty? The green-eyed girl wrinkled her nose in disgust. No, thanks. Are you sure, Sakura-san? You never know when a little extra muscle will make all the difference, Hinata asked. The FFT. Sakura waved the trio of genin off. If I get into any trouble, Sasu-kun will save me. Ino's eyes narrowed into slits as she clenched her fists angrily. Let's go, she growled coldly, glaring at her friend. A real kunoichi doesn't wait to be saved. With that last scathing remark, Team 10 turned and resumed their jog, leaving a puzzled cherry blossom in their wake. So, next up is Team 8. Naruto called to the seething kunoichi. What do we know about them? Shikamaru and Choji are a couple of unrepentant slackers, but when the shit hits the fan, they're the ones you want at your back. Ino's displeasure shone clearly in her voice, and Naruto suspected it would for some time. I don't know anything about Shino. He was always quiet in class, and now that I think on it, I can't actually remember him answering any questions. Shino's clan is a bit unusual, Hinata explained. Says the girl with the X-ray eyes to the mindwalker and the stamina freak. Naruto quips. True enough, the Hyuga heiress mused. The Aburam clan has a symbiotic relationship with the Kikai insects that dwell in their bodies. I think I remember reading a bit about them last night, the blue-eyed shinobi mused. If I remember correctly, their insects feed on chakra. Right, Hinata confirmed. As such, those insects are Inaburam's primary means of attack. Naruto slowed as the trio approached teammates' training ground, arriving in time to see the three fresh genin rush an older bearded man, presumably their Jonin sensei, each holding a pair of kunai, as the younger men tried to get inside their sensei's guard. Naruto and the girls watched breathlessly as Choji and Shino forced the man's arms wide, while Shikamaru charged in and pressed the point of a kunai into either side of Asuma's Adam's apple. "This is so troublesome," the pineapple-haired youth complained. "Do you yield?" "I do," the Jonin said, relaxing his stance. "Congratulations, boys. You're true genin ninjas now." Uraki-no cheered, giving a little jump that made her bounce pleasantly. Naruto smiled as Choji and Shikamaru jerked towards her voice. Shino raised an eyebrow as Asuma chuckled. "We'll have to work on situational awareness," I see, the bearded Jonin smirked. "Anything I can do for you kids?" "Not really. We're just making the rounds and getting reacquainted with our future co-workers," Ino said, making hasty introductions. "So was that your exam?" Asuma nodded. "Normally, a Jonin will give the exam the same day the team meets for the first time, but I had to think up a good test for them. Normally I fight with a pair of trench knives, so the boys had to force me to submit with just a pair of kunai." "Hey, Ino, did you read my note?" Shikamaru drawled lazily. "Oh gosh, with everything that happened I completely forgot about it," the blonde said apologetically. "It's too troublesome to worry about," the brunette replied. "I just said to be careful out there and not to give Naruto too much of a hard time. I'm still waiting to see him in action, but he's got potential." Ino shrugged. "At least he looks like a shinobi, now." "He does," at that Shika agreed. "You guys should get going, though. We might see you around for missions." "We might," at that Ino giggled, bowing respectfully before jogging away. "Next stop, training ground 9." Naruto said. "This is the team Iruka said was in circulation from last year." "Niji Niasen." Hinata murmured worriedly. "You know something?" Hinata. Ino looked over at her teammate. "I think Team 9 is my cousin Niji's team," Hinata explained. "He doesn't like me much." "That's too bad," Naruto said, cracking his knuckles. "I didn't want to have to smack down a fellow Konoha shinobi before lunch, but those are the breaks." Naruto-kun. Hinata seemed aghast at the concept of her longtime crush fighting her cousin. "You don't understand." "No, Hina-chan, you don't understand. You're mine, the both of you." Ino's head whipped around in surprise at that declaration. "And just as much, I am yours. I don't care if he's your cousin or your father or the fourth Hokage fresh out his grave. Nobody makes my girls sad," Naruto said with a firm nod of his head. "Not even me, okay? If I do something boneheaded, don't be afraid to tell me." "Please, Naruto-kun, if he says anything let it slide," Hinata begged. "Just for today." Naruto turned to answer when he backed into a brunette kunoichi, taking the pair down in a messy tangle of limbs and cloth. "I'm sorry about that." The blonde hastily untangled himself and helped the other girl back to her feet. "I wasn't paying attention. Are you alright?" "Why don't you watch where you're going, you jerk?" the bun-haired girl said snidely. "Excuse me," Naruto said, starting to burn his admittedly short fuse. "I remember you from class." The girl smirked. "Always goofing around and pulling stupid tricks. It's a wonder you actually managed to graduate." "So you remember me, huh?" Naruto huffed, looking casually down at the ground. "I wish I could say I have the same honor, but I don't like to lie to a lady." Naruto raised his head, his trademark vulpine grin spreading across his face. "You cocky little bastard." The kunoichi took a wide swing which Naruto casually blocked before stepping inside her guard and getting in her face. "Listen sister, I don't know what crawled up your cute little ass this morning, but I didn't do anything wrong. My name is Tenten, not sister, and you ran me over." The brunette kunoichi yelled back. "You're in the middle of a dirt path," Naruto countered, jabbing her sharply in the chest. "I helped you up. I apologized for knocking you down. I asked if you were okay." Each accusation was punctuated by another heavy poke to Tenten's chest, the last of which sent her staggering backwards. "I don't know why you're such a bitch, but you owe me an apology for your behavior." "Don't hold your breath, Uzumaki," Tenten snapped back. "It'll be a cold day in hell before I ever apologize to you. Shall we take our leave, ladies?" Naruto glared darkly at the bun-haired girl as her teammates came jogging toward the group. "I really can't see any reason to stick around here." "Wait, youthful stranger." Naruto took an instinctive step back as a green something bounded into his field of view. "What is your problem with our dear Tenten?" "Well, mister." The blonde trailed off, hoping for something to identify the crazy green genin in front of him. "Ah. You wish to know my name? Is it not good manners to first offer your own?" "Never had much need for manners myself." Naruto shrugged. "The name's Uzumaki Naruto. I am Konoha's beautiful green beast." Rock Lee, the boy exclaimed, causing the others to recoil away from the sheer volume. Now my youthful friend, I ask you again, what is the nature of your fight with our kunoichi teammate? Your girl has an attitude problem, Naruto said coolly, and a distinct lack of appreciation for common courtesy. My apology, Tenten. Don't hold your breath, Uzumaki. The older kunoichi smirked with sickening sweetness. Or better yet, do. You're just a regular barrel of sunshine, aren't you? Naruto growled, spinning on his heel and beckoning to the girls. Tenten threw a last angry glare before stalking back to the training grounds, her teammates following quickly behind. Ino gave the retreating trio a brutal glare. Hinata, on the other hand, seemed transfixed by the other girl's swaying ass. I would hit that like the fist of an angry kami, she murmured softly. Ino and Naruto stopped and stared as Hinata's ever-present blush reached nuclear status and she hurried away, back to their own training ground. After they arrived, the trio was silent for a long while before Naruto spoke. So, Hina-chan, care to explain? It's nothing really. All my life, my clansmen have drummed into me that I'm expected to produce an heir, and I clearly like boys, if my attraction to Naruto-kun is anything to go by. Still, I can't help but wonder about you know. Sounds like you're bi-curious, Ino clarified. Interesting. I don't know about all that, but I know what I like, Hinata replied, gazing back in the direction of her cousin's training ground. And I think I like that very much. Indeed, Naruto murmured in agreement, picturing Tenten's swaying backside in his mind. I'm not too crazy about her attitude, though. Glad to see you've been getting to know the other teams. Kurenai said as she appeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto, nice clothes. You look like a shinobi should. Ready for your first D-rank mission. The young shinobi nodded and set off for the Hokage tower. Though I'm retired now, Sonomi slipped fluidly into the conversation. And Naruto's right. You'll all have your chance to shine, or be shined on. Now then, Miss Ino, was it? Let's see to your weights. It was 11 o'clock by the time Team 10 took their leave and made their way to their training ground, with a brief stop to deposit Naruto's new clothes. We have an hour to kill before Kurenai-sensei gets here. Naruto yawned. Any ideas? We could go for a jog, Ino suggested. Naruto perked up as she waved them over and drew a rough diamond shape in the dirt. Now if memory serves, we are at training ground 10, here. She pointed to the top of the dust diamond. Training ground 7, 8 and 9 should also be in this block, going counterclockwise from here. She paused to point to the left-hand corner. And most rookie teams practice on a training ground that's the same as their team number. How do you know all this? Naruto gestured to the diamond. There are maps of the various training grounds all over the village. Don't tell me you've never looked at them. Actually, I haven't. I just went to where I knew a training ground was, and if it was occupied, I wandered around until I found one that wasn't. That tears it, Ino stood up hastily. We're going to have to make sure you know where to find allies if you need them. We'll start with training ground 7. Leaving no further room for argument, the taller blonde picked a direction and started to jog with her teammates, catching up in an easy burst of speed. They had a good time and soon stood at training ground 7 where they immediately noticed something wrong. Where's their sensei? Naruto murmured aloud. No, but they should, Ino replied before raising her voice to a shout. Hey forehead. Aren't you a little young to be wandering around by yourself? Shut it, Ino pig. Sakura fired back. Our sensei told us to be here at 7. Do you seriously mean your teacher is 4 hours late? Hinata stared in disbelief. She'd been raised with the mince at that time as a valuable commodity, and like any such commodity, wasting it was frowned on heavily. Yeah, but what can you do? Kiba tossed back from his spot under the tree. What about you guys? Kurenai-sensei is meeting us at our training ground at noon, Naruto replied. We're doing laps around the training grounds to kill time until we go for a mission. Hey forehead, you wanna join us? It's a good way to get in shape, Ino prompted. And get all sweaty? The green-eyed girl wrinkled her nose in disgust. No, thanks. Are you sure, Sakura-san? You never know when a little extra muscle will make all the difference, Hinata asked. The FFT. Sakura waved the trio of genin off. If I get into any trouble, Sasu-kun will save me. Ino's eyes narrowed into slits as she clenched her fists angrily. Let's go, she growled coldly, glaring at her friend. A real kunoichi doesn't wait to be saved. With that last scathing remark, Team 10 turned and resumed their jog, leaving a puzzled cherry blossom in their wake. So, next up is Team 8. Naruto called to the seething kunoichi. What do we know about them? Shikamaru and Choji are a couple of unrepentant slackers, but when the shit hits the fan, they're the ones you want at your back. Ino's diss shone clearly in her voice, and Naruto suspected it would for some time. I don't know anything about Shino. He was always quiet in class, and now that I think about it, I can't actually remember him answering any questions. Shino's clan is a bit unusual, Hinata explained. Says the girl with the X-ray eyes to the mindwalker and the stamina freak. Naruto quips. True enough, the Hyuga heiress mused. The Aburam clan has a symbiotic relationship with the insects that dwell in their bodies. I think I remember reading a bit about them last night, the blue-eyed shinobi mused. If I remember correctly, their insects feed on chakra. Right, Hinata confirmed. As such, those insects are Aburam's primary means of attack. Naruto slowed as the trio approached teammates' training ground, arriving in time to see the three fresh genin rush an older bearded man, presumably their Jounin sensei, each holding a pair of kunai, as the younger men tried to get inside their sensei's guard. Naruto and the girls watched breathlessly as Choji and Shino forced a man's arms wide, while Shikamaru charged in and pressed the point of a kunai into either side of Asuma's Adam's apple. "This is so troublesome," the pineapple-haired youth complained. "Do you yield?" "I do," the said, relaxing his stance. "Congratulations, boys. You're a true genin ninja now. You rock." Ino cheered, giving a little jump that made her bounce pleasantly. Naruto smiled as Choji and Shikamaru jerked towards her voice. Shino raised an eyebrow as Asuma chuckled. "We'll have to work on situational awareness, I see," the bearded smirked. "Anything I can do for you kids?" "Not really. We're just making the rounds and getting reacquainted with our future co-workers," Ino said, making hasty introductions. "So was that your exam?" Asuma nodded. "Normally, I will give the exam the same day the team meets for the first time, but I had to think up a good test for them. Normally I fight with a pair of trench knives, so the boys had to force me to submit with just a pair of kunai." "Hey, Ino, did you read my note?" Shikamaru drawled lazily. "Oh gosh, with everything that happened I completely forgot about it," the blonde said apologetically. "It's too troublesome to worry about," the brunette replied. "I just said to be careful out there and not to give Naruto too much of a hard time." "I'm still waiting to see him in action, but he's got potential," Ino shrugged. "At least he looks like a shinobi, now." "He does that," Shika agreed. "You guys should get going, though. We might see you around for missions." "We might," at that, Ino giggled, bowing respectfully before jogging away. "Next stop, training ground 9. Naruto said. "This is the team Iruka said was in circulation from last year." "Niji Nisan," Hinata murmured worriedly. "You know something, Hinata?" Ino looked over at her teammate. "I think Team 9 is my cousin Niji's team," Hinata explained. "He doesn't like me much." "That's too bad," Naruto said, cracking his knuckles. "I didn't want to have to smack down a fellow Konoha shinobi before lunch, but those are the breaks." "Naruto-kun." Hinata seemed aghast at the concept of her long-time crush fighting her cousin. "You don't understand." "No, Hina-chan, you don't understand. You're mine, the both of you." Ino's head whipped around in surprise at that declaration. "And just as much, I am yours. I don't care if he's your cousin or your father or the fourth Hokage fresh out of his grave. Nobody makes my girls sad," Naruto said with a firm nod of his head. "Not even me, okay? If I do something boneheaded, don't be afraid to tell me." "Please, Naruto-kun, if he says anything let it slide," Hinata begged. "Just for today." Naruto turned to answer when he backed into a brunette kunoichi, taking the pair down in a messy tangle of limbs and cloth. "I'm sorry about that," the blonde hastily untangled himself and helped the other girl back to her feet. "I wasn't paying attention. Are you alright? Why don't you watch where you're going, you jerk?" the bun-haired girl said snidely. "Excuse me?" Naruto said, starting to burn his admittedly short fuse. "I remember you from class." The girl smirked. "Always goofing around and pulling stupid tricks. It's a wonder you actually managed to graduate." "So you remember me, huh?" Naruto huffed, looking casually down at the ground. "I wish I could say I have the same honor, but I don't like to lie to a lady." Naruto raised his head, his trademark vulpine grinning across his face. "You cocky little bastard." The kunoichi took a wide swing which Naruto casually blocked before stepping inside her guard and getting in her face. "Listen sister, I don't know what crawled up your cute little ass this morning, but I didn't do anything wrong. My name is Tenten, not sister, and you ran me over." The brunette kunoichi yelled back. "You're in the middle of a dirt path." Naruto countered, jabbing her sharply in the "I helped you up. I apologized for knocking you down. I asked if you were okay." Each accusation was punctuated by another heavy poke to Tenten's, the last of which sent her staggering backwards. "I don't know why you're such a bitch, but you owe me an apology for your behavior." "Don't hold your breath, Uzumaki." Tenten snapped back. "It'll be a cold day in hell before I ever apologize to you. Shall we take our leave, ladies?" Naruto glared darkly at the bun-haired girl as her teammates came jogging toward the group. "I really can't see any reason to stick around here." "Wait, youthful stranger." Naruto took an instinctive step back as a green something bounded into his field of view. "What is your problem with our dear Tenten?" "Well, mister," the blonde trailed off, hoping for something to identify the crazy green genin in front of him. "Ah. You wish to know my name? Is it not good manners to first offer your own?" Never had much need for manners myself, Naruto shrugged. The name's Uzumaki Naruto. I am Konoha's beautiful green beast Rock Lee. The boy exclaimed, causing the others to recoil away from the sheer volume. Now my youthful friend, I ask you again, what is the nature of your fight with our kunoichi teammate? Your girl has an attitude problem, Naruto said coolly, and a distinct lack of appreciation for common courtesy. My apology, Tenten. Don't hold your breath, Uzumaki. The older kunoichi smirked with sickening sweetness. Or better yet, do. You're just a regular barrel of sunshine, aren't you? Naruto growled, spinning on his heel and beckoning to the girls. Tenten threw a last angry glare before stalking back to the training grounds, her teammates following quickly behind. Ino gave the retreating trio a brutal glare. Hinata, on the other hand, seemed transfixed by the other girl's swaying ass. I would hit that like the fist of an angry kami, she murmured softly. Ino and Naruto stopped and stared as Hinata's ever-present blush reached nuclear status and she hurried away, back to their own training ground. After they arrived, the trio was silent for a long while before Naruto spoke. So, Hina-chan, care to explain? It's nothing really. All my life, my clansmen have drummed into me that I'm expected to produce an heir, and I clearly like boys, if my attraction to Naruto-kun is anything to go by. Still, I can't help but wonder about you. Sounds like you're bi-curious, Ino clarified. Interesting. I don't know about all that, but I know what I like, Hinata replied, gazing back in the direction of her cousin's training ground. And I think I like that very much. Indeed, Naruto murmured in agreement, picturing Tenten's swaying backside in his mind. I'm not too crazy about her attitude, though. Glad to see you've been getting to know the other teams. Kurenai said as she appeared in a swirl of leaves. Naruto, nice clothes. You look like a shinobi should. Ready for your first E-rank mission. The young shinobi nodded and set off for the Hokage tower. Thanks for watching this video. If you really enjoy this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. Don't forget to support and follow the Archangel and Bloodraven for writing that awesome fanfic, and also make sure to comment on this story link in the description. See you in the next video. Goodbye.